there. I thought she got the ball.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack here to provide you the fan show with a bit of a recap from our wonderful, wonderful past two wins against Manchester City and Aston Villa. We had one of the most Spursy weeks possible, losing to Crystal Palace, then beating Man City, and then beating Aston Villa after that. And this is going to be your fan show if you want to chat about that wonderful week that we had, or if you'd also like to preview as well the Galatasaray game, which should be our toughest game in the Europa League. And I'm really looking forward to it. Don't have the strongest of lineups available to us. Ange Postecoglou as well usually uses this competition as an opportunity to give some other guys minutes, but at the moment we don't even have too many players to pick from, so it should be interesting what he goes for, and plenty of other things. I put some questions in there for the fan show members there in the community channel, and I'll probably list those in about a second or two, but it's just good to have you guys with us. Thanks for joining the stream here. If you can for me while you're already in here, smash the like button. Feel free to come on if you are interested in coming on, having your say. There's not maybe the longest of lineups, I would say. I'm a little surprised because we had those two great wins, and then also as well we have a huge game tomorrow. But then again, Champions League is on. Crazy stuff going on in the world and whatnot. So maybe it's just a time for people to chill out. But if you ever were interested in having maybe a lesser, queue, it's not so long this time. So come on, have your say and join me. Have a chat with me about whatever it is that's going on in your Spurs mind. But let's go to maybe some of the questions I have built up for today. We'll get to the chat and then we'll get the show going on the road. Sadly, no Davo tonight. Just not really feeling too well since the birthday, maybe, coincidentally. But no, in all seriousness, he's just not feeling too well. And so hopefully we can have him back for tomorrow because it's a huge game. You definitely would like to have Dave around for a big European night. Let's go to some of the questions I built for today. First one I went with, which is definitely in the title and the one that most people are probably talking about, is should Ange go with his strongest 11 versus Galatasaray, or should we go with his best versus Ipswich Town? He has opportunities to rest players. He could rest guys like Kulusevski. He could be giving rest to players like Pop Matasar, who've been playing a bit recently. Bentancur, Basuma, there are choices there. Do you give Vicario a rest? Do you give Solanke a rest? There are guys that, yes, maybe we are a little bit threadbare in certain areas, but there are certain players that maybe want minutes, like Lucas Bergvall, and it's going to be a tough choice for Ange Postecoglou, which players he kind of trusts to give minutes to that are maybe getting, kind of the fringe spots in the squad at the moment in time? Or does he just go with his strongest 11 tomorrow against this Galatasaray team? Is it more important, really, is another question, right, to win against Galatasaray, or is it more important to win against Ipswich Town? We have plenty of opportunities to go deeper into the Europa League, or pretty much solidify ourselves, should I say, in the next rounds of the Europa League against like an Elfsborg, which we'll have later down the road. We also play Roma at home, I believe, after this Galatasaray game. We have opportunity against Rangers. I think Hoffenheim are one of the other opponents. So you could say one of those games there, Spurs could look to prioritize as maybe the other big chances to get a win, kind of solidify yourself in the next rounds, avoid those playoffs, which would be extra games. And I think we would like to avoid that. And will he technically go with a weaker team, knowing that this Galatasaray game is just not really built out for us to go with our strongest 11? Do you go with your strongest 11 for both games? Do you just push your players to the limit in case maybe you get an injury, right? Sonny as well, right? Just coming back from injury. Does Ange Postecoglou risk playing him in this game? Tons of questions about the lineup, really, for tomorrow. I really struggled to do the predicted lineup for it. So feel free to have your chat or have your conversation with me about that, exclusively, or however long you want, because I think there are a lot of question marks around the lineup for tomorrow as well as for Ipswich Town. Second question I had was, should he keep playing Pop Matasar while he's in form, or give him a rest? Kind of, specific to the lineup once again, but I do feel like we could have a chat about Pop Matasar. He's just been playing so well recently. It's like he's practically displaced, James Maddison from the starting lineup at this moment in time. He's been one of our best players in some of our most important games recently. He's in a really good bit of form right now, Pop Matasar, and will Ange Postecoglou look to continue to play him while he's in form, while he's hot, so to speak? And I'm curious what he'll go for. Will he look to rest him, bring him in for the Ipswich Town game? Does he think this Galatasaray game is a more important game for Pop Matasar? Does that mean Maddison might be dropped again? Big questions, but also maybe time to praise our Pape and our star man. Number 3 would be, is Ange still tactically naive after beating Guardiola and Emery in the same week? Definitely a question for any of you Ange lovers who have been protecting him as well as defending him and, trying to calm us down, any of the people that have been doubting Ange. I think that's definitely a question for yourselves, because, he's been definitely labeled as tactically naive. He's been, called a plan A guy only and all those types of things, right? And in the space of a week, he was able to beat Guardiola as well as Emery, two of the most tactically, impressive managers in the Premier League for some time now. So what does that say about Ange Postecoglou? Number 4, can Spurs fans finally go into an international break happy about our club? I can't remember the last time we went into an international break really buzzing and really feeling pretty calm, let's say, and pretty assured, let's say, about our club, about the destination we're going with, under the manager, the journey, and the season. It feels like if Spurs can pick up, let's say decent result against Galatasaray and then another win against Ipswich Town, I think there's a real chance that we might go into this international break one of the happiest we've ever been for some time now. And so let me know your thoughts on that. Good opportunity to be a happy clapper like myself. And then last and certainly not least, everyone has been praising Solanke for his work rate and his hard work off of the ball. I thought maybe this would be a good time to reminisce over fun players in the past. Who's the hardest working Spurs player you've ever seen? Who's the guy that you felt like was, the real grit, the real steel in the midfield, or the person that you just felt like really just worked their tail off almost every single match on a repetitive basis and with no real fail or no real kind of drop in form. So let me know, who's the hardest working player you've ever seen at Spurs. Going to get to the chat here, and then we're going to get to this, get this show started. We have Rhino in the house. Really appreciate the sentiment there, Rhino. And hopefully we can have you on tonight, my friend. But if we can't, we'd love to have a chat with you next time. And sadly, no Davo today to help celebrate your birthday. But happy birthday to lots of good people being born, it feels like, in this month of November. So big up to you, Rhino. And really appreciate the kind words for us. And I think a lot of us, get a lot of, friendship, community, sense of kind of belonging and stuff like that from this channel. So very, very kind of you. Danny Darko's with us. Hope you're well, Jack and Dave. Doing all right, Danny. Sadly, Dave, maybe not well enough to be on the show, but he hopefully could be back by tomorrow. But hopefully you're doing okay, Danny. We have Joe in here as well. No Turbo, no more. Not sure what we have else to choose from now. No, it's definitely difficult. You probably just have to continue to push Brennan Johnson. Did Werner not travel either? I'm not sure. I would assume he would. This would be a game that I would think that Timo Werner would get some minutes, but you and I can discuss that in just a second there. Eddie, Eugene S., sadly not joining us tonight. That's okay, Eugene. Maybe next time, but appreciate you kind of regularly coming on these fan shows and, being a good role model for the rest of the people that might want to come on. Good to see you, Chris. Hopefully you're doing okay this evening, my friend. Someone told me that you're also maybe a bit under the weather, so sadly we might not be able to have you. Would love to have you if you want, because the queue isn't that long, Chris. So, you and I could have a nice, decent chat, but hopefully you're doing okay this week. And if you're feeling a little under the weather as well, I hope it turns around for you. King Hoddle's with us. Good to see you, King Hoddle. Appreciate you tuning in. Shemi Tan is in here as well. I hope you're both doing good today. Hopefully you're doing okay as well. Shem, Liston Hines saying, have evening, everybody, but who on earth are we going to play tomorrow? Injury Crisis 2.0, Injury Crisis 3.0. So many tough decisions. And like I said, we have maybe some depth in some areas, but then also really threadbare and others. Really threadbare at the back right now in that right wing spot. Not a lot of choices other than Brennan Johnson. It's kind of tough right now. But then in midfield, we have good opportunities, I think, to make some changes, shift things around, and you wonder who he's going to go with tomorrow for such a big game list in Heights for that midfield. That's where we're kind of still pretty stocked up in terms of choices there. We have Luke with us saying, I'd use the squad for Galatasaray and go strong versus Ipswich. It's not like we're in danger of going out of the Europa League. That's kind of the way I looked at it as well. As much as this fixture is glamorous and has all the kind of the feeling of a huge European night, maybe it's just not set up for us to go with our strongest 11 or go with a version of our strongest 11. Maybe this is one that we're just going to have to give guys that don't normally get minutes an opportunity, see if they can put in a magical performance and we can still, live out a great European night. But the Ipswich Town game might be more important to climb up that Premier League table, continue our momentum in the Premier League if we can build some. And then in the Europa League, you have plenty more opportunities to solidify yourself into that next round. And so, yeah, I think maybe this is sadly a game that while it looks amazing on paper, Spurs won't have probably one of the best teams available to them on paper to pick from, and we'll just have to take a bit of a hit. But big up to you, Luke. Hopefully you're doing okay. We have as well Sports Lover, big up to Sports Lover. Scotty Hynam, big up. Oh, come on, you Spurs. Good to see you, Scotty. We have Harish Babu as well. Cantab is in here. The one and only Jason Bell saying, I don't want to see too many youth playing tomorrow, to be honest. Those Galatasaray fans make that atmosphere brutal. Yes, they do. They very much do. And someone told me that it used to be more brutal. I think it was Joris, the Belgian Hotspur, said that it used to be more brutal, that that atmosphere with Galatasaray. But apparently it's lightened a little bit. But you'd still like to think that, the Turkish away fans, are just as passionate as ever, or just as difficult to go to as ever. It's a mad, footballing country. They, have a wonderful footballing culture in Istanbul with, like so many teams in that city. I think there are almost as many teams there are in London, or at least some of the biggest teams in the Super League, the Turkish Super League, are pretty much all located around that Istanbul area. So it could be a huge game for them, to host an English side, especially a London English side like Tottenham Hotspur. And I'm not sure if how many times have we even played Galatasaray? I can't remember, but it really should be a ton of fun. Jason Bell, and I think it should be probably better for some of those more experienced players than some of those younger guys. That I definitely agree. But you might, I was thinking Mikey Moore, but I have to redo my predicted lineup now, because originally I went with Mikey Moore for this game, but it looks like he didn't even travel because he picked up a flu. So we're really threadbare. It's probably going to then just be Brennan Johnson, Solanke, maybe Timo up top. Timo didn't travel. He has a groin issue, says says Joe. Yeah, we really are threadbare, much more threadbare than I thought. I'm going to really have to redo the majority of that predicted lineup. That should be tons of fun. Good to see Cantab with us. Good to see Niall O'Connor. 100% Prem is a priority, but I don't believe the players would pick one game over the other to play. I think, it's a privilege to be able to play in both, and it would be a huge game for both, because the Galatasaray away game should be our toughest game in this whole Europa League run. It's an amazing, place to go to travel to, and just play in a very intense atmosphere. And so regardless if, you go for a weakened lineup in this one, it's still a massive game. And then the Ipswich Town one is another opportunity for us to build some momentum in the Premier League. Home game as well, right before the international break. So we should be going into that, wanting to give the fans a win, and wanting to give them that little bit to hold on to while they can before going into the international break. But I'm not sure if I'm missing anybody. Bell Blake is with us as well. Dermatron is in here too. Good to see Dermo. I think we'll get this show on the road. El Dante as well. And I'll try to organize maybe the order while I can, but I'm going to bring the first person on, which is MV Joker Davis, Edward, Eddie the Eagle. Let's bring him on right now, see what he has to say. How you doing, Edward?
Hey, I'm good. You, Jack?
Doing all right. Struggling with the lineup. I'm going to have to redo my predicted lineup.
No, Jack.
Our praise for Aston Villa and Man City first to relive that past week. Two little split modes. Galatasaray tomorrow, the wonderful week we just had from last week. Where do you want to start?
We'll start with the City game, because I did tell Donovan that I would talk about the City game and why Ange seems to have Pep's number at the moment. For me, Ange has always had Pep's number because of the different systems they play. Pep is all about possession and keeping ball, where Ange is all about pressure and possession. He loves pressuring the opposition, and City can't really keep the ball and keep the possession they want if they're always being pressured. And you saw that in the game where, yes, they had a lot of the possession, but they didn't really do much with it because they couldn't. They kept getting pressed and pressed, so they weren't able to actually get to our 16-yard box and actually do anything and take shots from outside the box, because we just kept pressuring them backwards and back to their own half. So yeah, that's the reason why Ange has always done well against Pep, because his system just seems to do well against all sorts of systems. So they want to keep the ball, but Ange's system of just pressuring and relentless pressuring just doesn't let him do what they want with the system. So that's why I think Ange will 9 times out of 10 beat Pep in game. I think just previewing the City game not that long off, we'll probably win that one in my opinion, but we'll see how we go with the Galatasaray game next and see how Ange handles this injury crisis we got going on. It's not looking good, Jacko.
No, it's certainly not. No, even
Um,
the guys that we do have available, like Moore, you would think would be great for this game. He picks up the flu. Timo Werner, groin injury, completely forgot that even happened, in one of the games. We're threadbare right now, Edward. We are
yeah,
threadbare.
yeah. Well, he was on the bench against Villa, so I'm shocked that the groin injury has picked back up. So we'll
Hmm.
see how bad it is, but hopefully he's not that bad because yes, people has a problem with Werner, but I feel like Werner has been some sort of danger in the front. He hasn't had the sort of last ball we want him to, but he has constantly added danger to that left wing. Not danger that leads to anything, unfortunately, but danger nonetheless. So hopefully he can recover for it, and we can see him against Ipswich because we're so dreadbare at the moment. This game is going to be fought with our youngsters because if nobody watched the little short, Spurs put out a lot of youngsters traveled with this team, like a lot of youngsters, and we're going to see definitely a sort of mix between the under 21s and the actual first teamers here because I think Cardosa traveled with the team, Lancashire traveled, I think Casanova also traveled. Can't remember some of the other guys traveled, but
Yeah, yeah. Some, I think Barrett or Perkins or something his name was as
yeah.
well. Traveled as well. And do you think Ange is gonna, he's never gonna admit to it, but do you think he is prioritizing maybe one fixture over the other?
Um, I don't know. Ange doesn't like that. It's just not in his mentality to prioritize the fixture over the other. He will always strive to win, and he will put out the team that he thinks will win the game. But he will also not put out a team that is silly, that's going to jeopardize our position in the league. So I can see him putting out a relatively strong team tomorrow. We might see 4 to 7 changes tomorrow within the team. I think Sonny will probably start the game. He'll probably be taken off at halftime or 60 minutes, just get the fitness back up into Sonny. Then Weston for Ipswich. We might see Slanky will probably play as well, whether if he starts or Lancashire starts, and we see him come off the bench if we actually need more goals in the game, depending on the situation. And we'll probably see Kulisevsky Paul. I think those players are what we will see because I just think those players have the stamina and energy to play in these sort of games and then go to Ipswich or go home to Ipswich and actually get a result there. So we'll see what Ange does, but he is going to be really tested here with his personnel management and see what he does to get us over the line and into a international break where we're all happy and we're not calling for Ange out because last couple ones just haven't been a good Jack.
No, I know we have a terrible record as well right before international breaks. We tend to lose games around that period. It's just, it's been a while since I can say, Spurs fans might go into international break feeling really, really good about their football club. So, it's a good opportunity, get that for Spurs. Just quickly on the lineup though, Edward, like, one of the tough ones I have, especially is in the midfield. Maybe, we are threadbare up top. It's going to be a struggle to put together a good forward line, without risking any injuries and whatnot with Sonny. But in the midfield, that's kind of where we have more depth and not as many injuries. What would be your midfield for tomorrow? Would you continue with Pat Matasar? He's been wonderful. Would you play him for the Ipswich Town game? It's tough.
I think we will see Salah this game. Probably not starting. He might come off the bench to impact. But I feel like Ainge sees Salah as a big impact sub. Yes, he starts and does score quite well starting, but he's also really good off the bench. So we might see him off the bench. But in the midfield, we might see, I'm guessing, Bagwell, Kulu in a two-man attacking midfield, and probably a single pivot this game with probably Bentacore. We'll see, and then Basuma off the bench come halftime or 60 minutes, and just to let Bentacore get more rest. Because I think Bentacore is now the starting six that we're going to prioritize for most of the games, and if he's not banned by Ipswich, he'll play in Ipswich. So that's probably what my midfield will be. Whether or not he goes with it, we'll see. But I don't know if he traveled with any midfielders, any young midfielders. We might have. I think Archie Gray could play there if he doesn't play in defense. So in the end, we'll see what he goes with. But it's a tough one, and I doubt anyone who makes the predicting starting 11 is going to get it right, because you're not. It's just crazy one to call.
Yeah, and when we come to other players in the midfield, Madison, right? This is a good game for him to, let's say, win some faith back from Ange Postecoglou. He didn't play at all against Man City, then ended
Yeah.
up coming on late against Aston Villa. I'm trying to remember if that was also for Richarlison, so it might not have even been within the plans to bring on Madison. Do you think he's kind of lost? Do you think Ange Postecoglou's lost a bit of faith in matters? Do you think he's going to play him tomorrow? What's his status with James Madison?
I don't. Truth be told, I don't know, because Madison had that sort of purple patch of good form earlier in the
Yeah,
season where we were always praising him, and he did quite well. And I can't remember he actually did anything quite bad apart from the Crystal Palace game since then. So I feel like Ange is just making tactical changes for these games, and why Madison hasn't played as much, because he doesn't think Madison would help in these games. Because as we all know, Madison isn't the one to likes tracking back and likes doing all this hard, nitty gritty things in the midfield. So, and that's something we really need in the midfield, especially when the midfield is physical, like the Villa midfield. Man City midfield is like that too. Those are the two games after the Palace game we saw that was really physical midfielders, and Madison just wasn't the person we needed for those games. So he might play this game. I don't know much about the Galatasaray midfield, but I don't know if they're sort of physical, if we need some big people in there. So we might see him. He might start, truthfully. Never really thought of that. He might come off depending on the game situation, or he might play the full 90, and he just might get rested for the Ipswich game or come off the bench for that. So yeah, playing Madison would probably make the most sense. He probably might actually rest Kulu for this. Kulu hasn't rested that much this season so far. So yeah, Madison is definitely a good shout there.
Yeah, I think Madison has an opportunity here to start maybe, earning back some faith from Ange Postecoglou, because he hasn't been playing much of recent. But going into maybe another player that you might have thought might have lost some faith from Ange at one point because he had a bad red card, Dragusin, right? He's got some chances here. He's going to get some minutes, and his agent should probably stay quiet because now he gets a plenty amount of games in a row here. But Dragusin, huge opportunity for him. What have
Yeah.
you made of him? Do you think he is a good defender, or do you not have your mind made up on him yet? What do you make of Dragusin?
I never really got the criticism toward Dragusin, apart from that rash red card, but he had to kind of make the challenge, otherwise it was 1v1 with Vicario and goal, and Vicario could have saved it. We don't know anymore because it's uncertainty. But he had to do something, and he brought the man down and got that red card in the end. We wanted to win the game, so it didn't really cost us. So the sort of criticism to Dragusin saying, and I guess in possession he isn't as good as Romero or Mickey is, but I think that comes with time and with age. Maybe some players take longer to develop in certain areas. Mickey's good at possession, while Dragusin is like staunch, really good in the air, really good defensively. And you see that even though he doesn't have the pace as Mickey, he has that recovery ability to get back and actually make a last-ditch tackle. Because some of those tackles he's made so far this season has been qualities, and there have been last-man tackles, and you make one wrong step there, that's a yellow, that's a rash foul, and he makes them without much problem. So he does have a chance here to prove to Ange that he is a defender to take serious, and a defender that should be in that starting 11. So we'll see what he does. Like I said in other shows, Jack, Dragusin and Davies work well together. Dragusin with his defensive abilities in the air, and Davies with his ball playing abilities. We see this season, Davies has a really good ball on him. He had made quite a few crosses, and we also seen it from Dragusin. In the last Europa League, Arizona Alkmaar, he was doing quality balls over the top. Some of them didn't hit, but a lot of them did hit. But the attackers didn't do much with them. So we'll see what he does. But Dragusin is a quality defender. I'm looking forward to seeing him more. And all these rumors about him going to Juventus or going to other clubs, I can't see Ange selling. And yeah, he's going to be a quality player for us.
Huge opportunity for the Dragon, and we need someone with a man bun to solidify themselves in this Tottenham Hotspur squad. I think you always need one player with a man bun in a 25-man team. But let's maybe end things off with this question, Edward. Everyone's praising Solanke for his work rate. Is he the hardest working player you've ever seen in a Spurs shirt, or who's someone that comes to mind as maybe the best work rate? Puts in the grit, puts in the hard yards, covers the most distance on a consistent basis. Who's the hardest working Spurs player, in your opinion? It could be Solanke. Maybe he is already, but which one is it?
Two names immediately comes to mind. Kyle Walker and Luka Modric. Luka Modric and Kyle Walker are the two players that immediately come to mind for me. I'm probably going to have to go with Kyle Walker just because he did a lot. He does a lot. The Kyle Walker is just such a hard-working player in and out of possession. He gets back and makes those last-ditch tackles. He still does that at the ripe old age of 31, 32 for Man City. He gets back and makes these incredible tackles with his speed. It's incredible what he's doing at his age. For us, he was a credit for us. It's sad that we let him go. If we had him now, I would still be put him in. He's amazing defender. Maybe we won't be in this mess if we still had Kyle Walker at this club, because we would still have a good another right back other than Paul, and we would still have more players to play with, quality players. So yeah, I'll go Walker with this one.
I think that's a great shout. It's Kyle, especially if King Hoddle agrees with you. He's seen plenty of hardworking players, especially probably plenty of hardworking players that maybe weren't that talented, but made up for it probably with some hard work. Moussa Dembele, says Danny Darko. Scotty Parker gets into the conversation, says Sam DaCosta. Very interesting. Well, let me know, everybody, later when I ask the next few guests that same question, what we might think, if our answers might change. But Edward, thanks for getting us started. Great opener, and appreciate all the ambassadorship that you show to Dave and I. You come on the Big Up, you're an ambassador for us there, enticing people to come on, and then also with these fan shows. You're very kind to us. Appreciate you, Eddie.
Nice to meet you, Jack. I just love talking football. This, Jack. It's just a favorite thing for me to do. And now I'm going to go to sleep and get ready for work, because
good man.
Big day at work.
Big day. And we have a huge day tomorrow in terms of Galatasaray. Appreciate you, Edward.
Yeah,
see you soon, man.
Big up. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Big up to Eddie. Absolute legend. Really nice guy. But let's keep this show on the road. We'll keep it moving. I think now we're going to just making sure. I think we have Daniel Larson. He's up nice and early in the queue. I feel like Daniel's usually a little further back there. And I didn't skip you as well, Daniel. So this is already off to a flying start.
I was going to say,
how are
actually,
you, Daniel?
You better not skip.
You were, yeah, bet you were curious. Didn't do it this time. Maybe next time. Daniel. So kind of same question to Eddie. I think we'll start with probably the wonderful week that we had last week, the most Spursy week imaginable. Crystal Palace defeat, Man City getting knocked out, and then Aston Villa all in the same week. And then we'll probably talk about Galatasaray tomorrow afterwards. But what a wonderful week, and what a Spursy week it was.
What a Spursy week. I mean, that Palace game was unacceptable performance. No energy, nothing there. I mean, for me, Palace been absolutely dreadful this season, and they weren't that good either. If we just stepped up, got off a little bit of gear, we would have beaten that. So that's, we got to be a little bit negative there. But then, of course, City, great performance. They seem to be derailing a little bit at this point. So that's a little nice to see. Not too long, but, and then Aston Villa, amazing, absolutely brilliant second half performance. That we've seen before against West Ham was the same. So, at home, we're absolutely insane when we get out of gear. But, of course, it depends now consistency. Because, like I said, for me, Brighton, unacceptable, that defeat, and Palace. And that's 6 points. We would have been third. And if we win Ipswich, we would have been second. So there is, if it is if possible, maybes, of course, but there is, there's still work, and of course, there's going to be work, but have faith now.
Faith. And how do you feel about Ange Postecoglou now, right? Where he's been labeled as tactically naive, plan A, sometimes gets, a little bit, kind of misunderstood maybe with some of his, anecdotes or some of his quotes from the press conferences with, just how persistent he is with his play style. And yet he's beat Guardiola and Emery in the same week, right? Two of the most tactically astute managers in the Premier League. Do you think his stock has risen, with Spurs fans? Is that a good week for Ange? Maybe one of the best weeks ever for him?
Yeah, I think it's best week for him personally. Especially he's learning. I feel like he's learning. In City, when we went that second half, we stood back and we hit them on the counter. Like I love, which I think was the right idea and clever and a plan B from him. So yeah, and Aston Villa was, it was.
It's cagey in that first half, like it was two good teams, kind of almost like a boxing match, kind of feeling each other out, trying to understand, and then Spurs just had the energy to just hit that second gear, spot on, Daniel.
And that's when we had those players, when they're at it, they're brilliant and they can play any team. Well, not any team, but definitely most in the Premier League, especially. So yeah, we just need to keep that consistency, hopefully. And that's mostly on the players, I would say now. Because I feel like sometimes they're not motivated to go out there and perform.
They don't
stay motivated.
They can't replicate these performances, you feel like, on a consistent enough basis.
And it's so weird for me because they want to be top players, right? You got to keep it up. I know, it's transitional, that, but that Palace game, I'm still having that here somewhere in my mind. Just nothing, but still, Ange definitely. I'm a little bit of flip flop here and there. But that's the club's fault. You got to play in the club there a little bit. My God, sometimes the great, sometimes the shit, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. So.
And we've had this conversation before in the past, but someone made a great point. I forget who it was because I'm stealing their point, but Spurs fans have been conditioned to not really know how to go through a project with the manager because we do end up just sacking them quite quickly, like into the run when it gets tough. Many managers have barely lasted longer than 2 years, right? There were so many managers that only could go like one season, and then the next season they would just get sacked eventually. And so Spurs fans, I think, have been conditioned to pretty much only start to make their mind up, pretty much defiantly after like a year or something. And then if the manager just isn't meeting that expectation, then we just feel like he should get sacked. And I think that is kind of, to a degree, the club just making us feel like we should be sacking managers when most other maybe fans around other clubs would still try to be patient about the project. So
I will actually give credit to Levy here, though. He's been no mention, not even a sniff of sacking Ange, So he seems to be behind it. So, for me, I'm clueless anyway. So I'm just going to say, shit chat here and there, talk crap. So you don't listen to me. Prove me. I just want to be proven wrong, to be honest. But now I will say, though, I'm gonna be, if I manage to say, my mind, could swap, any second. But I am Ange, and I want to see him succeed. That's because I see it now. I can see something now, and hopefully I can stay like that.
Yeah,
so you gotta. If I ever say something else, please just say you talking shit now. So you just mentioned to me. So you gotta, because now I said it. So now I gotta hold to it.
No, you're feeling it, Daniel. I can tell. You're feeling convinced, and maybe then going into this Galatasaray game for tomorrow, what do you make of the lineup, man? It's difficult because there's so many different choices, when it comes to the midfield, but then in other areas of the pitch, it feels like we're pushing these guys all the way to like their final minutes. Like Solanke, how is he still able to walk? Like Brennan Johnson,
machine.
Brennan Johnson's going to have to keep playing. Sonny, we might have to push him, because Timo Werner isn't available. So do you go with a weak lineup, basically? Do you go with the kids tomorrow against Galatasaray? And then do you try to play your stronger lineup against Ipswich Town? Is it the other way around for you?
No.
Stronger lineup versus Galatasaray, weaker lineup versus Ipswich Town. How do you feel?
I feel like weaker lineup against Galatasaray because I feel like it doesn't really matter if we lose this game. Because 3 wins, I still don't understand this Europa League, like group stage. I still don't understand anything of that shit. But I feel I've seen like green to 1 to 8. So I think like if you finish between 1 and 8, we qualify. Something like that. So it doesn't really matter for me.
Mm.
If we
Yeah.
win this, I mean, it would
Climbing
great to
up
see
into
just-
top 4 is a really big
Yeah.
deal for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think, you know, if we do put the kids and rotate, you know, we're not going to win there because I think it's going to be too much. You know, they've been really good apparently, Galatasaray this so far. So, you know, so most a draw if it's that possible. But for me, a loss doesn't really matter. You know, just because of the situation really.
Dermotron with a stat. Galatasaray have won just one of their last 6 meetings with English sides, drawn 2, lost 3. With this is their first ever game against Spurs. All 3 of Tottenham's previous meetings with Turkish sides, Turkish opponents, have been against Besiktas. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. Most recently, a 1-0 loss away in 2014-15 Europa League. Thank you, Dermotron, for the very informative stuff.
Christ.
Galatasaray, they do have some tough players, though. They got Osimhen in the team. They got Icardi. I was saying earlier, they got some real divas up front with Osimhen and Icardi. And Dries Mertens. Yeah, right. Dries Mertens is in the team. Davinson Sanchez is in the team. It's a real throwback squad. It's a real throwback of a team. Do you give us any shot to win it tomorrow, Daniel? Are you going into that game any expectations? Like King Hoddle was saying in the chat, he's like, play the tea lady up front. Don't really care about this game. Do you feel that way, or kind of going into it no expectations, or do you still think Spurs should be able to get a point or something out of it?
I think if we're lucky, we could get a point really. But
yeah,
if I see like Lancashire up top, and of course some youngster there, I want to see them play well, of course, and I hope they don't get too, rattled and a little bit lack of confidence. It doesn't go well, so I don't want that to happen. But personally for me, it doesn't really matter because I think we're going to qualify. Yeah, so it's a win-win situation for me, to be honest.
It is, yeah. I think because we can beat Elfsborg, right, or we could beat Hoffenheim or Roma, whichever one, or the Rangers game. There are other opportunities. Doesn't need to be this game, but with Davinson Sanchez at the back, exactly right, King Hoddle, maybe we can try to
but then,
see if we can win the little leaky defense. Ellie's happy to see you by the looks of things. And also as well, people are pointing out that Villa lost and that we have been softening these teams up. We beat Man City, a little losing run from them. And then look at Villa. Now they're losing. We're just softening these teams up. We're breaking them. We're breaking their mold. We're getting them rattled.
Yeah, lovely to see. I mean, I don't mind Villa too much, so it's not the first team I wanna, ask to be bad. It's too bad, but whatever. If they lose, they lose.
And Daniel, kind of maybe my final question for people has been, everyone's been praising Solanke, but who's the hardest working player that you've ever seen in a Spurs shirt? Who's someone that, you think of that covered the hard yards, maybe always was up there, maybe distance covered, just never was someone that you would accuse of not working hard for the team, basically. So who's the hardest working player you've ever seen at Spurs?
Well, for the one that comes up straight away is Harry Kane, to be honest.
In what sense do you think Harry Kane is that guy?
Just the work rate. I mean, he was everywhere, dropping deep and then pressing, never stop pressing, really, for us. So that comes up straight away. But, yeah, I can't really remember too much of Modric play for us, so I can't really say too much of that, which, as we said, then Kyle Walker, yes, I agree. But for me, just Harry Kane just comes up.
All right. I don't mind the Harry Kane shout. I actually thought the Modric shout wasn't bad from Edward, because when you think about it, Modric, wonderfully beautiful player to watch, but actually he does cover a lot of ground, and he's just always kind of buzzing about in a way, and he does know how to win the ball back, especially kind of earlier in his day when he had that. He's kind of like a little mosquito. He just sort of gets around everywhere. Luka Modric, just very good that way. And I didn't think that was a bad shout. But Daniel, appreciate you coming on. Thanks for having a chat. And hopefully work isn't too stressful or anything, but Spurs have been making it probably pretty easy on you.
Yeah, well, you got to, especially when we lose and all of that, you got to kick that away straight away. It's not because if you go to work, then you got no chance. So that's no worries.
That's when you need a win straight away. like you did against Man City. Lose to Palace. That Man City game came at the right time.
I will just say though something about Sarr, Pop Sarr.
Go ahead.
Aston Villa, Hall of Fame performance. But the way he's been managed this season, managed by Ange and his coaching staff, has been top notch. Absolutely amazing. That's why he's so good, really. Because you saw at the start of last season, he was so good, one of the best players for us. But after AFCON, when he went there, he was still playing and he was knackered. And for him to be a new player, he didn't really play too much. I mean, he was playing for Mets before and all that, but of course, that's not the toughest league ever.
No.
So he's coming here full season in the Premier League. It's going to take the kick out of you, especially on a kid like him. So now I think it's been handled brilliantly, and we'll see the best of him because of that. So praise Ange and his coaching team for that. And that's why we got to still be careful with him, like not overuse him.
Interesting point, Daniel. I'd agree with you that he actually, his minutes and the way that they've brought him in at the right times, at first they kind of used him as more of an impact player, and now he's, starting regularly, because they've been noticing he's been playing so well. I think you're right. That's actually a very good comment about Pop Sarr. And also that goal that he scored against Man City, I think goes down as one of the goals of the season. Finally, he scored a long shot. Finally, and we got a Matters free kick. It's been a wonderful week. And just so powerful. And just so powerful. Look what he can do. Alrighty, Daniel. Appreciate you, sir. Thanks for coming on. And
thank you.
Thanks for having a chat with me. And I will see you hopefully for the next one, for the next fan show.
Yeah, we'll see. Can't make any promises, but you'll see me from there.
Or you can join us for a big upstream. We're doing that this Saturday for Liverpool. And I think they're coming up against Aston Villa, which should be a good game. So if you're around watching that game, feel free to join us. And we can have a little chat. Appreciate you, Daniel. Have a good night, sir.
Take care. Big up, Jack.
Come on, you Spurs.
Everyone. Come on, you Spurs.
Nice one. Big up to Daniel Larson. Really, really nice guy. And, I think he's going to go into international break, hopefully feeling pretty good about Spurs, which has been a while. It's been a while in that case. Thank you to Sergeant Stressful. Really appreciate the donation. Really appreciate the support. And he's saying truth is, Ange has had to learn everything about the teams, the coaches, and how they play, especially his first time managing in the world's most competitive league. Ange is cooking, in my opinion. Very good comment. I have made this point in the past as well, kind of similar to what you're saying about how he has to kind of learn and get the feels of what the Premier League is like. I said to kind of Dave before with Ange that when we last season were kind of being, let's say, transitioned on and, counterattacked, to a pretty devastating level at times. I did think he had to get used to just how quick the Premier League can be at times, just how ruthless some of the other teams can be, right? Where maybe in other leagues where you're playing that really high line and you're trying to dominate teams, and to create a ton of chances and overwhelm them. Yes, you can leave yourself a bit open at the back, but a lot of those teams, maybe in other leagues, might not really have the quality of players or even the quality of managers to really try to, exploit maybe the spaces that you might leave in behind and some of the risks that you might take. And I think it's probably taken him a while to, not really even that long. I think it's going to take anybody a while if you're coming to the Premier League with no experience of it, to figure out, right, how do teams try to work you out? And also as well, you're trying to figure out which players and which, teams and formations seem to really kind of cause you problems. And I think Ange Postecoglou more and more has shown a lot of signs of improvement. I don't think he's really shown any signs of, I guess, regression or anything like that. I think for the most part, it's been a pretty linear curve under him. And with, that kind of progression will come, mistakes and will come moments to learn. And I think he has learned a lot during his time here. Set pieces, nowhere near conceding as many. I don't even think we're actually a team that's built to be that great at set pieces, at defending them. We're not even that tall of a team. Vicario still has a lot of work to do, but the fact that we do seem a lot better this season, huge signs of improvement there. In terms of the goals we do concede, majority of the time, I think they're far more individual errors than they really are in any way related to the system. And for a team that I don't think have that many clinical players up front, I think we could use some more clinical players up front. We've scored the most goals in the league, right? So clearly Ange Postecoglou is working things out and is, like you say there, I think he is starting to cook. And this has been a wonderful past week for him. Both the Aston Villa result as well as the Manchester City result, two huge managers, some of the most tactically astute managers in the Premier League as well. And he had 2 brilliant performances against them and really got the most out of his players, made some bold calls, dropping Madison and, taking Son out in games. He's doing a lot of good things right now, Ange, and is definitely raising some eyebrows and has proven a lot of people wrong. And I'm glad to see it. So completely agree with you there, Sergeant Stressful. I think there was another point I wanted to make, but I probably forgot it. Maybe I'll just show it to one of the next people that are coming up here. Might be Donovision, and he can touch on what you said there. Really appreciate the support. And then Artist T saying, is Davo still, recovering from the birthday bash? No, he's not. I think he had to, sort of a doctor's appointment. And then I don't think he did too well after that doctor's appointment. He's just recovering from that. And I think he'll be back with us tomorrow, hopefully, but can't make any promises. But unfortunately, yeah, Dave is feeling a little bit under the weather at the moment, Artist T, but nothing too crazy. And I thank you for picking up the Flat Cat membership, my friend. Good to have you with us. Remember, you can join the Fantasy League members match previews as well before each and every game. Just did that this morning with Brad, so you're welcome to check that out. And then also we will be out with a members only podcast, hopefully over the international break. So plenty of things to enjoy. And as well, you're also able to get involved with the panel shows. Just yesterday I did that with Johnny, did that with Sam, where you can send in a comment or a question before the panel shows, and we've reserved time at the end to answer them. So Artist T, really appreciate the support that you showed to Dave and I in this channel, and hopefully you get involved. But let's keep it moving. I think we have we have Donovision afterwards, then Ash, and then I think it would be Dermotron, and then it looks like Ryan has popped in as well. I think Ryan might go before Paul, but I think Paul as well wants to go in at around 9 o'clock. But you guys can settle that with me in the chat there. Good to see you with us, Rhino. But let's move on to Donovision. How you doing, Dono?
Good to see you, Jack. How you doing, man?
Well, feeling pretty good, man. It feels like we could go into this international break, for first time in a long time. Very, very, very comfortable, and maybe emphasis on that word, comfortable and cool and collected about Spurs.
Yeah, it's almost like a false sense of security, though. You know how Tottenham is, right? But we've worked hard. You can tell that these tactics and all this hard training has really paid off. And there are questions about Ange last season when people were like, is he naive with the high line? They said pieces, we look vulnerable. But he kind of had this message the whole time of trust the process, not to quote the lot down the road, but I'm trying to introduce a way of playing that's sustainable, and it's going to take patience. And I'm not going to be caught up on the details right now, because overall I'm going to believe in the final product. And it's starting to show. The problems kind of take care of themselves when you start playing good football. And I think the biggest thing for Jack was just our lack of ruthlessness in front of net, and how we just didn't take our chances. But now we are, and it's starting to see that that just alleviates the pressure off the back line and on the other spots of the field. So yeah, it's happy days, man.
It's just happy days. It feels like things are starting to click. Things are starting to come together for Spurs. And didn't we have one of the most Spursy weeks imaginable? Crystal Palace defeat, where we just were tactically outclassed, just completely outdone. One of the worst performances of the season. And then on to Man City, knocking them out in a pretty convincing manner. Then on to Aston Villa, one of the most important games of this Premier League season, beating them pretty convincingly. Pretty good week, for Ange, and also one of the most Spursy weeks that I could ever remember.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I think it's also the best week under Ange Postecoglou too. It's the best week from such highs and lows. And it's he said himself, he doesn't want to get into the valleys and the mountains, because that's not what it's about. But it's kind of hard to not to when that happens, right? Yeah, no, you trust the process, and part of winning is you have to. What did he say? If you're gonna build a beautiful garden, you have to handle some fertilizer, right?
Yeah.
So it's when you start winning and everything, and not just in life, once you start upgrading and levels and stuff, you have to go through some shit. And if you don't go through that, you don't learn. And I argue that we kind of needed that to happen. And so many fans would be like, what the hell? What are you talking about, Donovan? We've went through our last trophy was in 2008. Like we went through all this, but this particular squad hasn't. Right, the Brendan Johnsons haven't. He played at the championship level. Dominic Solanke, Dejan Kulusevski, Radu Jagerson, like those players that like need that Premier League experience. They need to go through the fire, drag them through, get it out of your system now. So when the business end of the season comes, and they're in a scenario like that where let's say we need a top 4 result like we did against Arsenal, Conte days, right? We can get over the line. Maybe that helps us out in a cup final. And I would argue that like it's so easy to say like 2020 rear view vision, but I was fully confident that we are going to beat Manchester City based off of the fact we lost against Brighton and Crystal Palace. Because like you said, it's not even just Spursy thing. It's just the way it's written in the stars, you know, like that's just, it's like poetic justice. And it seems like football is poetic sometimes where it's just like, you get those, point. Yeah, you get those results. And so I was quietly confident. And I think honestly, dude, I think.
So you weren't that rattled by the loss by Crystal Palace, really? Just frustrated, but maybe not rattled, like had your head shaken by it, really?
No, I'm, you know me, I'm pretty patient. I'm pretty level-headed. I'm not gonna like flip out over that kind of stuff.
Wobbling.
Like I don't get me wrong, man. I flipped out on that Arsenal game. Like I came on the fan show pretty heated, and I was like, "Yo, what the hell is going on?" But then, since then, like I've kind of cooled, and I realized that like yeah, you have to handle some fertilizer, man. And but that leads us up to the Ipswich game, man. Like I think that this game is like a must-win game. Like this is like must win, and it's almost as important as like getting over the line against City because, pardon me, it's like solidifies it, if you know what I mean. Like all that hard work. Shout out my own little rant and my own video on my channel. I go into way more depth about what this part I'm going to talk about. But like winning, like the reward you get for winning is so powerful. Where it's like the likes of Dominic Solanke like passing out after the game because he was like he'd barely walk, right? And like you were talking with Daniel just now about like how can the guy even walk? Well, it's like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I was watching him on Hot Ones there, that where you eat all those hot chicken wings, you know, like from yeah. And he asked him the question of like, hey, now that you're like you went off the field to the boardroom, and now you're like your job is to motivate the players. Like, how do you do that? And he said like a big thing of taking a player from a good player to like a championship level player is that like, when championship I mean like winning titles and like winning major honors, is that like you have to rely on the adrenaline from the fans and winning and getting good results. And that's so true, because if you win, like all that hard work that you exerted into that is just like rewarded because you get a bask in that glory. Whereas like if you lose, then it's like, okay, well that was almost for nothing, quote, like so to speak. And so it'd be so demoralizing to go into the international break losing. Yeah. And I think even a draw wouldn't be enough. Like we need to, it almost is like taking away, like you're chipping away at this inevitable rock, or like you're pushing that rock up the hill, right? Like get rid of that Spursy tag, and it's little results like this that help.
Yeah, totally.
This Ipswich game. So yeah.
I think even Kulusevski had a quote saying, when you're winning games, things just start to make sense. And I think that's a brilliant quote about, you know, it just, winning does reconfirm things for players. It does make it feel like, you know, what you're doing is validated. All the hard work that you're putting in has a good reward, and it's, you know, manifesting itself, you know, on the pitch. And it is very important to pick up wins and to get that sort of validation from that. And I think sometimes we have to just realize that sometimes results really are just very, very important for the players, for the manager, for everybody involved. Would you go with a stronger lineup then? So for you, just the Ipswich Town game, far more important than this Galatasaray game. While one game is a lot sexier on paper, the Galatasaray game, you think the Ipswich Town game is far more important for here and now in terms of the season?
Yeah, just on the fact that like I went in depth, and you guys did too, about like the seeding and how this Europa League works, this format where the top 8 teams advance, and it's not seeded. So like 8th doesn't play first, right? You just get put in a group of balls, and you get drawn, right? Back of a draw there. So yeah, like even if we did get top 8, like it wouldn't be the worst Like I'm never gonna back the boys like to lose, but I'm gonna say this, like it wouldn't be the worst thing if we didn't get a positive result against Galatasaray based off
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, we need to win. It's at home. We wanted the players to go with a good mentality. The players that aren't representing their national team to like get that rest, be able just to bask in that glory. So, like in my predicted lineup, I had Timo, Lancashire, and Moore as my front three. But then I find out today that, of course, that Timo was not playing and Moore didn't travel. So, like, it's almost like we're pushing these players to the red line every game anyway, and it's like we're gonna be doing that again. Like, I don't. Yeah. So, and Son's going away for Korea too. So it's like if he does play tomorrow, yeah, if he does play tomorrow, like what the hell? So I have Son penciled in there with a little unhappy face, unfortunately. And then a shout from right wing here is that like really far out. I saw on the plane that there's this youngster that we called up from the academy named, first time I've ever heard of him, by the way, Lucas Williams Barnett.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know how Ange is, right? Like he's not like the Conte where he's gonna call these players up to be like traffic cones. Like if you're playing in the team, he's seen something in you.
Yeah.
So either he comes off the bench for minutes, maybe he gets a surprise start, because everyone's like idolizing Solanke for his doubled over, like just passing out against City. But if you watch that game back, for the last 15 minutes, Brennan Johnson, man, could barely get up and down that pitch, man. Like there's a couple times where he's like feeling his hamstrings. And that's the thing with this Ange ball is that like it's so relentless.
Yeah, and you do need proper rest.
So I don't want to see Johnson playing. He most likely will. But yeah, like rotate the squad, go heavy against Ipswich. It kind of sucks though, Jack, because like I was going on about how I wanted Romero. Well, didn't want Romero, but it might have been a blessing in disguise if Romero didn't play against Ipswich, because you can't like once you fool me once, you know, but it's like every single international break that he goes and represents Argentina, it's like there's nothing wrong with being a country before club type of player, but just like own it, you know, like come out and be like, hey, like I got to play with Messi. I love the treatment. I love being that Hollywood star when I go back to my home country. Up the Spurs, but like maybe take himself out of contention, maybe go down in practice. Don't do it like mid-game. Don't down tools, because it seems that like every international break, there's just a lack of leadership on that back line, and it's helter-skelter. So without Romero, I think that Davies and Dragusin are more than capable enough to get us past a relegation side, like at home. But now that Romero might be back, I hope he's not. I hope Ange rests him. But yeah, that was my thoughts on Romero anyway.
No, that's it. That's an interesting kind of final thought there. And Ketab's saying, yeah, Romero should be back for Ipswich. Ange did say that. And yeah, I'd agree actually that Romero, does he really need to be pushed for that Ipswich game when, Dragusin and Ben Davies, good opportunity for them to feel like they can contribute. Mickey Van de Ven would still be out, so Dragusin would fill in, I guess, instead of Davies if Romero were to play. But I agree with you that he probably then will go off to Argentina and then end up exacerbating that injury, or could make it worse. And it's just something we don't want to have to risk at all. So give him the proper rest that maybe he needs or deserves. Definitely agree with you there. Hardest working Spurs player you've ever seen, Donovan. What do you make of that question?
For me, the only answer is Kane. It's got to be Harry Kane. Like,
really?
The amount of stress that we put that man under, like not just physically, but like there was a while there where it seemed like he was the only player that like wanted to win. And when I say win, it's like not just win the 3 points, but like actually keep us on a trajectory to like win honors. Like Manchester City had this meme of like, I saw this picture online. I think it's LB posted it, the big Manchester City fan. It's like, never forget when we were in the trenches. And it was like a back line of like Cancelo, Diaz, Otamendi, and like just like world-class players. It's like, boy, you don't know the trenches. We had the likes of like Doherty, Sanchez, Dyer. I'm trying to think who our backup left back. It might have been Reguilon. No, it was Tanganga. We had Tanganga playing.
Doherty, Sessegnon.
Yeah, Sass. We had Skip and Winks as a double pivot. We had
rough.
like Yeah, and we had that Lucas. We did the 5-3-3 with Mora and Kane up front. Like, but anyway, like during those dark times, like he would run his socks off, man. And I still remember that Crystal Palace game at home where they were absolutely peppering us. Like they were peppering us. We were under the cosh for like 70 minutes playing that horrid Conte ball. He steps up and scores a goal. And then like on the 89th minute, he's the only one on our own goal line heading a clearance off our own goal line. And like he's looking around like, what the hell's going on? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think Harry Kane. That's just my bias because I'm a fairly new fan since like 2013. So I'm sure there's like I didn't get to see the flight of Scott Parker, right? I didn't get to see Modric like in his glory days. Like I didn't get to see Bale. So it's like, yeah, for me, it's got to be Harry Kane, like just off of what I've seen. So yeah.
Back-to-back shouts of Harry Kane. Didn't think I would hear that, but I see the logic in terms of also professionalism. A guy that doesn't drink, doesn't go out, just all he thinks about is just family and his football and just trying to progress his career. Pretty much made himself available for every single game, even when he probably wasn't fully fit. That is one of those kind of signs of being a hard worker, is that even when you're not probably even healthy, not even really supposed to be playing, he still would throw himself out there. So very hard worker indeed, and was just very determined guy to continue to improve, and that also takes hard work. So it's actually a very deep answer from yourself and others when it comes to Harry Kane. Donovan, appreciate you, sir. Notice that you're starting to put out some content over on your own kind of personal channel. It's under your own name, and then it looks like kind of the handle that you have is the Canadian Spurs boy. What have you talked about over there? What do you plan on talking about over there?
Yeah, I just recently came out this last special I just did. I'm actually quite proud of how this one turned out. I'm starting to get the roll of it now. I'm starting to get used to talking in front of the mic. But I know it's usually just about the last two results because we're playing 2 games a week now. Kind of like what Ange just come out and said in the post conferences and the press conferences. But I'm trying to take it more than just like football tactics and kind of just like delve into the ideology of like winning and like how it's so hard to learn how to win. And I kind of parallel that to Tottenham because Tottenham Hotspur has just been beaten into this submission of mediocrity, like that's just been forced down our throats for the last like decade. And it's like we've almost forgotten how to act as winners in the way of like, yeah, it's okay to thrust your chest out. It's okay to be confident. It's okay to like embrace this, but you also have to take like you said, you have to take like the fertilizer too. And so just delving into the ideologies of winning, and I've dubbed it "Welcome to Winning." So if you like what I have to say, just come on over, hear me waffle on about the team. This last one I just dropped was about the City and Aston Villa results, and looking forward to Galatasaray and touching on Ipswich. And yeah, like help me grow. I'm trying to get over 100, and once I get 100, I'll start like doing live streams and everything. But yeah, I really appreciate that, Jack. This opportunity to shout my channel out. And something I gotta say to you, bro, is that like now we're so close. Like straight up, I don't got a passport. Like I have to get that shit sorted out. So
That's
it's
okay, man. I'll come to you. I'll come over to Canada. I have my
Yeah,
passport.
we'll
It's all
catch
right.
we'll catch like a Caps game and hang out downtown or something. Or maybe
No,
go for a
dude,
hike
that
or
sounds
something.
go on a nice little run, go on a nice little walk as well. Like I said to you just earlier this morning, British Columbia, gorgeous, even debatably more gorgeous than Washington is. It's how nice you guys have it up there. Would love to make the trip up. Would love to.
Totally. And like you said, dude, it's like gorgeous. I feel like it's like I'm blessed in paradise because it's
Get
like
to
I'm
do a nice
almost
little drive, get to borrow, like my parents have an extra car, my brother has an extra car, so I'll do a nice little drive up. It'll be fun.
that's a good drive up the I-3, man.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's nice. It's nice.
well, we'll look forward to it. So yeah, good luck with the rest of the show.
Appreciate
I'll
it,
do
man.
it. I'll do an Eddie now. I have to work tonight, so I'm gonna have a nap. But take it easy, man, and we'll catch you
Pulling
tomorrow. Hey,
There you go. Nice one, Donovan. And come on, you Spurs. Appreciate you, man.
come on.
Everybody, check out Donovan's channel, please. If you are listening along, show him some love, show him some support. He's always been coming on these fan shows. He's been with Dave and I for a long time now, supporting this community, supporting this channel. So it'd be great if you guys could head on over to his. Looking forward to meeting him in person. He's a cool guy, really nice guy. And he's also, as well, I think he's busy with work, busy with life. He's playing on his own team at the moment, his own football club. Still makes time to make his own videos on his own channel. He's coming on this one. So he's a very productive guy. Appreciate Donovan. But we'll keep this show moving. Looks like next we have Ash, and it's been a while since we've spoken to Ash, but she makes the time when she can, and I know it's also probably crazy o'clock as well, maybe where Ash is, but let's bring her on, see what she has to say. Been a great week. Hey, Ash. I can't hear you, actually. Maybe you're on mute?
It is 2 a.m, so it is
Yeah, I had
crazy
a feeling.
o'clock.
I had a feeling it was going to be crazy o'clock. But Ash, thanks for being patient and thanks for coming on. Wasn't it the most Spursy week last week? Crystal Palace defeat, Man City, getting them knocked out, and then Aston Villa. What a wonderful win that was. So, what have you made of
You
the
know,
most recent
the
week?
Spursy is contagious because we've given it to Villa and City, so it's definitely contagious.
We've broken
And
their
maybe they
shell.
like me more as well.
We've broken their bubble. We broke their shell.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
yeah, say what you're about to say. Sorry.
I actually I wanted to disagree with everyone who's saying that we should play a weakened team going away to Galatasaray, and the reason for that is not the Europa League. It's because it's an away game. Sports people are like a superstitious bunch. Like over time, if a narrative builds up, sometimes you sort of buy into it yourself. Like Spurs are not good away, Spurs are not good away, Spurs are not good away. You say it enough times, the players will start believing it. So we really do need a good away win under our belt just to get that confidence up away. Otherwise, at some point, we're just going to think that we can't win away, or that
Interesting.
it's a hard game that we won't be able to do it. And I think that, if we're smart, like the place that we have depth right now is the midfield, right? Everywhere else, we're pretty threadbare. Um, like if we're smart, we have two midfielders who can play as wingers, right? We have Kulu who can play on the right, and we have Madison who can play on the left. So it is possible for us to rotate Sunny and Madison on the left, and to rotate Johnson and Kulu, who both need a rest, honestly, on the right. So, like, if we played one half of Johnson and one half of Kulu, and then one, and similarly with on the left with Madison and Sun, it's completely possible, like believable to me that we could put all our young people. We could put Bergwall and Lancashire in the center, and we'd have to play Bissouma because we got to like rest somebody, and Bentancur played more than Bissouma did in the previous game. And one of Udogie and Porro would have to rest, so Gray would have to go there. The defense kind of picks itself because of our injuries. So to me, it feels like if we're smart and we do game management well, like Ange did with Sunny in the Villa game, I think it's possible to rotate enough that nobody plays for more than 40 minutes, 45 minutes, So like we can still put out a decent, like it won't, obviously our injuries don't allow us to put out a strong team, but it can still be a decent enough team to beat Galatasaray. So and I genuinely think that we need an away win, so it's important for us. And like sports people are so superstitious. Like when we won against United, we won against United on the same day we won against United 12 years ago. So it's just this, like there are just these weird, like I'm not a superstitious person, but like when somebody believes it enough, sometimes they
Spurs force you to be.
yeah, it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. So I just feel like maybe they should just win that game. And our home form is so good. I do believe that we're confident enough at home that with rotating at Galatasaray and doing the game management, everyone will somewhat get through it enough to sort of play Ipswich and eke out a win. I think both things are possible, and I think as Spurs fans, we shouldn't like, the whole idea of getting Ange in and having a project is that we shouldn't have to pick a game. It shouldn't be this or that. It should be every game we play, the next game we play, we're going to win. And I feel like that's how we slowly build that mentality where we're confident going into every game. So
Well
I,
said.
I genuinely believe that we can win both games.
Well said. I do agree with your theory about you're almost forced to be somewhat superstitious about Spurs, and even if you don't want to be, because even I think recently too, Romero and Mickey Van de Ven picking up an injury in the exact same week they did last year as well is also just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's like they refuse to play without each other, like best friends forever,
Has to come with it. You can't separate it at all. But then, on your point about the away form, we have been talking about it, nonstop, really. Just the really poor away form, and at some point, like you kind of bring up there, we do have to nip it in the butt, and we do have to find a way to get over it and kind of work ourselves out of it, and maybe in a more mental way than it really is, in any way physical. And so it would take then a really big win, away from home, traveling far from London to Istanbul, crazy football culture over there as well, tough away atmosphere that could get rid of all the hoodoo and all the, yeah, kind of tough fragility that they've been having around the away games. It's not a bad theory, actually, because you would think if we do win tomorrow, every Spurs fan would, feel really good. It's a huge game. It's a huge fixture, huge club in Galatasaray. We'd all be basking in the win, and the players would as well, away from home.
Yeah, and international break couldn't have come at a better time. Like once we play these two really tiresome games, then we'll immediately get international break. And like all of these people with niggles and little fitness issues, they are not allowed to go and play for their country. Like I'm sorry, at any other time I'd be like, Sunny, go play for South Korea. But with his current fitness issues, I would say, Sunny, sleep for a week. Like, you know.
Yeah, go into the cryo chamber, whatever it is, for a whole week and don't come out of it. On to maybe the lineup then for tomorrow. You've suggested then that we go to like a mixture of really strong players, but then also find areas that you could put in some of the younger, less experienced one. Pop Matasar is an interesting one for me. He's played so well recently. Do you keep playing him, and would you play him then against Galatasaray tomorrow?
I'd play him for one half.
Okay.
Um, so the thing is, because if I use my theory of putting Madison on the wing or Kulu on the wing, whichever we do, or both if we do, then we run out of midfielders because we have Bergwall and Bissouma and we need one more, you know. And Gray can play there, but then we run out of defenders. So that's and I don't know, maybe we can play Dante there, like I don't know, but I feel like maybe it might be too much, asking too much to bring someone as young as that on to start. So
Yeah.
maybe we play Sar for a half. If winning the game, we put like Dante or someone in there. And if we're not winning the game, if it's like by a lot or we lot looking like we're going to win the game, then you bring everybody off and just throw in the children.
Love
And
that.
if it looks like we can win the game, then you do it accordingly.
I like that. I like that. I hate to go back and forth between last week and tomorrow, but from last week, this was one of the questions I had was around Ange Postecoglou being labeled as tactically naive, right? Doesn't have a plan B, that type of thing. After beating Unai Emery and Pep Guardiola in the same week, what does that say about Ange? Do you think he's gotten some respect back from any doubters, whether they're, Ange in or Ange out? Do you think he's really had a kind of a risen, his stock has risen after the last maybe week?
I mean, I definitely think so. I mean, I always believed that he had it in him. But sometimes it just, like the Palace game, sometimes it's just, like there's a lack of depth and a lack of like ambition, and it just all sort of coalesces into a single game. And I think that's what the problem was in the Palace game. Like there was a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of lack of depth, there was a little bit of just lack of creativity. Everything was just, it was just a hot mess, right? But sometimes you just have those games and you put them behind you. Like City is not a bad team, they can also lose 4-1. Who did they lose to? I forget. So like it is possible for even the best team to have like a really bad day. And some, like with all the other games, we were competitive. Like even when we've lost, we've been competitive. So to me, it's not the tactics per se that were the problem. It was just, converting our goals and that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
So personally, I think the tactical argument is not good because he also changes his tactics. Like, he doesn't always invert the fullbacks anymore. They pick and choose when they're inverting. All of these things, sometimes we play Kulu and Matters both in midfield. Sometimes we go with a more energetic midfield. Sometimes we go with a more defensive midfield. He makes these within the game changes. So I don't think that he's tactically naive.
No, I think in fact it feels like he's improved dramatically in certain areas. Like the way we've been counterattacked doesn't seem to happen as much anymore. You also look at set pieces, not conceding nearly as many. Just and also I think even the fact that, like I brought up, I don't think we actually are still that great at finishing chances, but we still have the most goals in the Premier League. So we're still we're able to create enough chances to overwhelm teams and eventually score. But I still think we could use more clinical players and we would score even more goals under this system. But I agree with a lot of the points you made there around Ange. One of the maybe final questions I had for us Spurs fans is just, kind of feeling good about international break, right? Is this the first time we might go into international
Yeah.
break feeling good? Things make sense. You're not really in an existential crisis about the club. You feel comfortable about Tottenham Hotspur. And am I exaggerating by saying that hasn't happened for a while now before an international break?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the peace of mind would just be just wonderful to have for just 2 weeks, where I'm not like antsy about, let me get this, off my back now for the next, because otherwise you're waiting for football to start again. So just so you can get that feeling off.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad for that.
Totally. It feels good to finally just be stress free and, like you say, go into it without any baggage of a bad form after some poor performances before the international break, because our record has just been terrible, terrible before the international
Yeah.
break. So it's good to go into it feeling a little bit more comfortable. The last question I had though, Ash, was before we have you plug your channel as well, which I'm looking forward to hearing plenty about. But everyone's been praising Solanke for his hard work of recent. Who is the hardest working player that comes to mind when you think of a Spurs player? Who's the person that put in the hard yards every single game, never failed to, cover tons of distance? Hardest working player, in your opinion, at Spurs?
So I have two names because people always go with midfielders or with attackers. Like, I want to shout out at defenders because Spurs never have four good defenders apart from when Walker and Rose and Vertonghen and Alderweireld were playing. So apart from that, we've never had a good back four, and two defenders have really like held the fort. One is Jan Vertonghen and the other is Ledley King. Uh, Ledley King wasn't the hard work he was doing on the pitch. It was the fact that, he was bandaged and injured again and again and again. And he had this painful regimen and he would play through injury. And like, he would just give his heart for the club. Like
Wow.
every game, 100%, he was out there playing with knee problem, groin problem, hamstring problem, everything combined. Like, the man was breaking down, but he was still playing for Spurs. And Jan Vertonghen, because he would just do whatever you asked him to do. You asked him to play fullback, he'd play fullback. He asked him to
True.
be centre back, he'd play centre back. Left, right, he just and like, he was just a team player. Like, I remember when he got that concussion, and even with the concussion, when he first got it, he tried to keep playing, and then he had to he was almost going to gag, and so they had to like literally take him off.
Yeah, restrain
So
him.
honestly, like Jan Vertonghen and Ledley King.
Great shouts so far. Great shouts each and every time, and I've loved the arguments from plenty of you guys. I've been very impressed actually by your answers on each of them. It's been very well thought and very well answered. Can you put up the squad for tomorrow, please? I can't, Ange Ball, because I don't know the squad for tomorrow. I wish I did, but I will have a predicted lineup out for you tomorrow. And plenty of you guys that have come on and had your chat with me have helped me with my predicted lineup, and I'm going to have to make some changes to it by the looks of things. But Ash, please tell me about your channel, all about the W. It looks like you talk about the Women's Super League and what's happening over there. What are you doing with that channel?
So basically, we just discuss all the games that happen in the week with the WSL. And, I think if you're a Spurs fan for the men, you have to support the women, not for like like all of those reasons that people generally give, but because of FFP. So all expenditures in FFP are offset. So if you spend it on the women, so Arsenal is doing this as a loophole. So the women and the men are both training at the Emirates, and all the expenditures that they're doing on medical team, on equipment, all of that, they're putting it down as women's expenditures because they're training there as well. And then they have more money than to spend on the men's team. So Daniel Levy, I know he's a businessman. This argument will appeal to him. If y'all put some more money into the women's team, go for the women's games. Honestly, we will see more money for the men's team. So for that reason, I think y'all should start watching the WSL.
Now, and it would be nice to see as well Spurs become more like a Chelsea or an Arsenal of recent, where they do take their team pretty seriously. They invest a lot into their women's squads, and I think Spurs, from what I can tell from the outside, I'm not the biggest expert, but we have been progressing, and it does feel like we could use a bit more just obvious investment into
No,
the
that's the
team. And
thing. Like, we were progressing until last year, and then they didn't put enough money into the team and like in the transfer market, and then now we seem to be regressing again. So and
frustrating.
that's on Levy, because so I feel like if he sees revenue, he will put money. So
Gotcha.
produce revenue.
I'll listen to your podcast. That sounds super interesting, especially if there are any questions around, like how Spurs can improve in that department, because I do like to know. I try my best to stay informed on it. I think I more or less, can say that we have been headed in the right direction. But like as you just said there, it felt like maybe in the last year or two, since Rob has come in as well, that maybe the investment into the squad hasn't been as good as I would have liked, considering that Rob seems to be a great coach. On top of that, it's a little frustrating to see. But I'm looking forward to hearing more about that, Ash. And thanks for coming on. Thanks for being patient. Thanks for staying up till crazy o'clock as well. Appreciate you. And come on, you Spurs.
Yeah, come on, you Spurs. And get well soon, Dave, if you're listening to this.
Thanks, Ash. Appreciate that. All right. We'll see you next time. Big up to Ash, please, everybody. And also, let's show some love to that channel. Let's show some love to Donovan's, and then as well as Ash's channel. I thought that sounded really interesting about listening more about the WSL. I try my best to listen to the Guardians Football Weekly Women's Football Podcast, and try my best via that sort of route. But I'm actually gonna check out Ash's, because sometimes I get maybe not all the information I'm looking for, let's say. So I'm going to see what Ash's is all about. So let's check that out, and I'll put the link in there one more time. But we're going to keep this show moving. We got Dermatron up next. See what he has to say. Great week to be a Spurs fan with Dermo. What's up, Tron?
How are you, Jack? How are you? And best wishes to Dave if he's watching. Bless him. I hope he gets better soon.
Yeah, we need him back for tomorrow. Huge game tomorrow, Dermo.
It is a huge game. It's not going to be an easy game. Look, at Galatasaray, any game in Turkey is not easy. But Galatasaray is like, look, I can remember back to the 90s when Man United used to go over there in the old European Cup, or the start of the Champions League when they reformed it. And it was like, you ever seen a home game in Turkey? It's like going into hell. It really is. They make it such an intimidated atmosphere. And what worries me, Ben Davies is playing, because is this going to go back and haunt him? He did say after one game, the crowd intimidated us to lose. It was too intimidating. And I'm thinking, you're going in there tomorrow. You're probably behind every. You're saying to Ange, don't play me. Don't play me, Ange. I've got a pretend injury. But look, I'll take a draw tomorrow. And that's 10 points to 10 points from 4 games. That should be enough to see you through to the next round, into the knockout stages, really. And then
you're not discouraged by the Spurs fans, willing to basically roll over for this game. Plenty of us, they want to go for a really weakened team. Are you okay with that, Dermatron?
I'm not, but it is what it is. But I'm not going to go there and lose. That's it's not in my DNA. I don't want to go over there and lose. I want to go over there and get something.
Yeah.
If we can get a point, great. If we can win, fantastic. But come away with at least a point. I agree with Ash says, and Ash made a very good point about playing Madders and Kulu on the wings, which was a very, very good point. And I replaced Sonny up front. You got Basuma and Sarr in midfield. And then
You play Sonny up front, though? I mean, why
Yeah.
is that? Is that to give Solanke a rest, even though Sonny's also injured?
that's to give more Slanky a rest because he's been working damn hard. And we've got Ipswich coming up at the weekend. Or you can play Lancashire up front. You don't have to pay Sonny. It's just to give Solanke a rest because I think he deserves one. But I think you've got to go semi-strong and just put the odd players in there. I wouldn't go weak. Because if you go weak, you're more likely in there, especially at Turkey, you're going to get torn apart. Galatasaray are no mugs. They're not just a team from Turkey. They're a good side. So I'd be very much going in there with a bit of a strong team to get something, get a point at least, and get out of there with a point at least.
Mm-hmm.
And take 10 points from 4 games. I mean, if somebody offered that to me for the start of the Europa League, I would have bitten their hand off for it. I would have said, yeah, great. And that sees you through. 10 points should be enough comfortably to see you through in the top 8. I don't think you would have any dangers going into the playoff for 10 points then.
And Dermotron, I mean, do you think the Ipswich Town game is more important than the Galatasaray game? So, like you say there, if we do get a point, we solidify ourselves into the next round. But is it more important the Ipswich Town game to progress further up that Premier League table than it is to pick up points in this Galatasaray game?
All games are important. There's no game's not as important as the next one. It's important that we get a result at Ipswich, like it's important we get a result against Galatasaray. I think you have to take each game as it comes as important as the next one. Each competition is as important as the next one. I look, Ipswich is not going to be easy either. Look, Ipswich haven't won. I think we lost to Palace away, and maybe we took our eye off the ball at that one. And Ipswich, we can't take our eye off that one either. The last time we played Ipswich was back in 2002, I think, and we lost 2-1 at home. So, do you know what I mean? Ipswich, I like watching Ipswich this season, actually. I've really enjoyed watching them. About all the teams that have come up, Ipswich is the one I've enjoyed the most watching. So, you've got to take it as seriously, the next game, as seriously as the game tomorrow night. You can't just prioritize it because you take the league, you take Europa League important because it's a chance of a trophy, and you take the Premier League seriously because it's a chance of getting top 4 or going even higher in the league and keeping the run going. So going into the international break full of confidence and full of goodwill coming into the start of the tough run, which we are going to get between now and January because there's going to be a lot of games between now and the new year.
And Dermo, in terms of maybe some squad selection troubles that I've been having in the midfield as well as some other areas, help me out with the midfield because I'm going to have to redo the predicted lineup for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Pat Matasar, he's somebody who's played super well recently, in a good bit of form. Do you rest him for this game against Galatasaray, or do you play him knowing that maybe he is someone that might need a rest, with how much he's had to play recently? Both Aston Villa and Man City played a ton of minutes.
It's a tough one. I was playing for 45 minutes, but either you're playing in the first game or playing for 50 minutes. I wasn't playing for the full 90. Ange is gonna. It's a tough one because Ange is gonna have to make some difficult decisions. And knowing Ange, as we do know Ange, he doesn't want to. He takes every game seriously, so he's gonna want to put a side out there tomorrow night that's gonna get us a result. I play Sarr for 50 minutes and then take him off. That's what I do because I think he's been playing. You want to keep the momentum of him playing well as well going forward. But it's a tough choice. I don't know. To be fair, I don't know what's the right thing to do. But me personally, I'm playing for 50 minutes and take it there. I don't want to go in there and come out. I'd say the Galatasaray would take a loss. I can't subscribe to that. I can't just get my head around that. For me, every game, I want to go in there and I want to win.
What have you made then of Ange's decision to bring some of these youngsters with him? Do you think then he is planning on going with a slightly weaker team and is going to play some of these younger guys?
I think he might do. I mean, you could play Bergville in there. I mean, there'd be no harm playing Bergville and Basuma in that midfield. He may play some of the youngsters, but it'd be a very intimidating atmosphere to play a youngster in. He may get very overwhelmed very quickly. But look, we have to see what Ange does. I would say the first half he'll play it stronger, and then in the second half he'll start putting the kids on then and start putting the lesser players on then. But look, we're getting the injuries at the right time, which is a weird thing to say. I know people are going to think, why is he saying that? Because with the international break coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with the likes of Sonny, and it gives a chance for Sonny to rest, it gives a chance of Werner to rest, Brennan Johnson also to rest as well, and give them a chance just to recharge their batteries. Hopefully Romero won't have to go on international duty, so hopefully he can stay behind and rest as well. Van de Ven, hopefully to get him back after international duty as well. So maybe we're getting the injuries at the right time, which is a bit of a weird thing to say, but maybe if you look at other teams, maybe we're having a bit of the rub of the green this year. And then we didn't have that last year. Maybe we are this year.
No, yeah, I think even these upcoming games, to a degree, we actually aren't they're too difficult, I think is what Dave said as well.
Yeah.
So we're getting through a tough patch here, but then after that, shouldn't be the hardest of games. It's always going to be difficult, but it shouldn't be as hard as it once was. And hopefully Spurs can pick up some more momentum. Dermo, I mean, is this the first time in a while that you feel like Spurs fans could be going into an international break pretty comfortable, pretty cool, pretty calm, pretty collected about their club? Lots of times we've gone into international breaks, doom and gloom, ending off on a bad loss, unsure about the direction of the club. Do you think with these recent wins and just maybe recent form under Ange that Spurs might be going into an international break pretty confident?
Hang on, we've got 2 games to go yet, Jack. Don't get
okay. You think we'll lose our heads after one of these still?
Yeah, I can just see it'd be typical Tottenham. We play so well, and then we would slip up against Ipswich. So I'll never count the chicken. No, look, if we get, I think it's the first time in a long while we can go into an international break quite relaxed and quite sort of happy for where we're going. Seeing where the team is, seeing how we are playing at the moment. And if you look, I think if you look at it, not just the last 2 games, but if you look at the last 10 or 11 games, what's it, 8 wins out of our last 11 in all competitions? Or 9 wins out of all competitions in the last 11 games. I think I think we could be quite satisfied with that. And we see what Ange is trying to do. We see what he's trying to build. And I agreed also with forget the person that was on earlier, his name escapes me at the moment, but about Levy sticking by Ange. I think there's a bit of Poch there when Levy stuck by Poch. I think there's a similar sort of kindle spirits there. Like, look, I'm going to really stick by you. And he has backed him. And maybe some of the players we bought haven't been the best, but I think he will back him. And I think he will stick by him because I think he can see what Ange is doing. And I think we've got a great chance of a trophy this year. Don't tell me why. It's been 40 years since we last won the UEFA Cup. And the year we won that, we won our first 4 European games. Now, back in them days, it was home and away against different teams. It was home and away, round 2, round 1, 2, 3, so on. But we won our first 4 games, and we went on to win that competition back in '84. If we win tomorrow, we win our first 4 games. Do you know what? I can see history repeating itself. I've just got a sneaky
This
feeling
one feels special.
It does, especially with it being 40 years this year since we last won the UEFA Cup. I just feel there's something brewing. I just feel I've got the same feeling now I did as a kid watching Spurs when Spurs were successful back in the 80s. It's that something, you can feel it. You can sense something is brewing, and probably had the same on the Poch. You can feel but this manager will get us over the line because he knows how to.
Love that, Dermo.
So look, it's for me. for me, it's great, and long may it continue.
And please tell me, sir, about THFC Till I Die, close to the 2K mark. Anybody that's listening, don't have a ton in the house tonight, but anybody that is listening that hasn't, head on over to THFC Till I Die, get this man over the 2K mark. But Dermo, any final words from yourself, sir?
Yeah, very quickly, just for plug my channel quickly. My player who I think has been the hard working.
Oh, yeah, forgot to ask you that. Sorry. Yeah, hardest worker you've ever seen at Spurs.
I would have to go back to my childhood, back to Graham Roberts and Steve Perriman. When I was a kid, Graham Roberts was an absolute animal. I know there's people in the chat like my age remember Graham Roberts. He was an animal. We can go back further to Dave Mackay as well. But for me, Steve Perriman and Graham Roberts. Steve Perriman was Mr. Tottenham. He played in the 70s. He played under Bill Nick and Keith Birkinshaw, and then Graham Roberts came in, and he was an animal. He really was a hard-working midfielder. And yeah, if you like what I have to say, I'm only 45 away from the 2K mark. I would love to get there before Christmas, if you can. But please, if you like what I have to say, join me, Colin, and Tequila, who's not well at the moment. So please, everyone, send your best to Tequila, and Carl as well when he does make an appearance. And yeah, we just talk about everything Spurs, good, bad, the ugly. We don't mind. We're there, the good times and the bad times. And yeah, please like and subscribe here. These lads are great lads. Give me my break, and absolute legends of the Spurs community. So
appreciate you, Dermo.
Subscribe me first, and then subscribe to these lads second.
Hopefully I get to see you on pre-match build-up tomorrow.
Yeah, just let me know what time, and if you need a hand with anything over the next few days, let me know. But let me know what time, and I'll be there.
Alrighty, appreciate you, Dermo, and thanks for all the help that you gave me on the Twitter Reacts the other day as well, sir.
I really love that. I love doing that show. It's so much fun. It really is so much fun. It's great fun.
Well, you're a great partner. You're a great partner. Appreciate you, Tron, and I'll see you very soon. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Big up to the Tron. Everybody show that man some love. Get him over the 2K mark, please. And let's keep this show on the road. We're going over to Ryan, and then it's Michael, and then it's Paul, and then that's the end of it. And then we'll all see you tomorrow for the match day festivities. And with the pre-match build-up, predicted lineup should be coming out tomorrow. I have to redo that one. And then as well, of course, the watch-along, all that good stuff. Let's move on to Rhino, though. Hey, Ryan.
You're right, Jack.
Happy birthday, by the way, coming up.
Oh, yeah, it's Monday. Yippee. I don't feel like I'm getting any younger, Jack, at the moment, to be honest. I've had a long day, mate, but hey.
Well, I was saying to Dave, man, you're getting wiser. That's what's happening. You reach a certain age where you're becoming wiser with each passing year, even though you might feel like you're getting older. But Rhino, come on, man. We had a brilliant week with those Spurs wins, knocking out Guardiola. And it was a relatively weakened team, but I think for the most part, Spurs, still were able to get over the line. And then Aston Villa, the tactical mastermind that is Unai Emery, tactically outclassed by Ange Postecoglou. 2 great wins, man.
Yeah, no, first of all, Jack, it looks like you must have forgotten to put in the memo to Pep, first of all, to play the strongest squad.
Yeah, I forgot to send that in, yeah. Ryan, I actually told him to send in the weakest squad. I forgot to send the right message.
Oh, God, Jack. I might as well just send Pep it next time myself.
Yeah,
anyway,
don't trust me. Don't trust me.
No, I ain't trusting you with that again, but hey, still. Yeah, no, it was a good win, but like I said,
Has your eyebrows been raised by Ange after those 2 wins?
Well, I want to talk about the City game first, and then I'm going to go on to the Villa game.
Go ahead.
Right, now, look, the thing is, with that Man City game, I wasn't getting happy over it. I wasn't getting happy in any way, shape, or form because it was a weakened team, man. I wanted that first team out. It didn't prove anything. All it proved was that Man City just don't care about the Carabao in any way, shape, or form. So that's just literally it's literally a pointless win. In other words, do you know what I mean? It was a win, fair enough. We got what we need. We got what we got, and it was a win. But it was a pointless win because it wasn't their first team. So That's all I've really got to say on that, man. And people are probably going to roast me now. And do you know what? After the day I've had, I really don't give a flying crap. I don't give a flying monkeys.
It's your opinion, Ryan. And to be fair,
Yeah.
Man City did not seem to take it all that seriously. They were even laughing, towards the end. Felt like maybe Spurs and Man City had a special agreement where, we handed them the title last year and maybe they were going to do us a favor for this Carabao Cup game. But, it just seems like it's a fixture. Man City at home, we just always seem to find a way. We always seem to win, no matter what against that team. We're their bogey team.
Yeah, true. Now, with the Villa game, it's a whole different ball game. First half, piss fucking poor.
Really?
It's all I can say.
Two teams. I thought it was kind of just a cagey first half.
No, it was a piss poor first half. Not going to sit here and sugarcoat it for no one. Don't care whether you're Bob Marley or Flaming Thomas the Flaming Tank Engine at the end of the day.
Does Bob Marley sugarcoat things?
Well, no, but you know what I mean. Because Bob Marley was just one of the greatest of all. Anyway, why are we going on about Bob Marley? Anyway,
I interrupted you.
So first half was just totally pissed poor. Second half, right, and Domo's probably going to love me now. An absolute masterclass in the second half. Everyone knows that I like Dermo and you and a load of others know that I don't like Ange, right? Because it's just because he's after them first 10 games, and after that it went downhill, like we all know. But no, credit where credit's due. It was a masterclass. I'd actually go as far, right, and say that is something that only Fergie could probably come up with
in that second
half.
Yeah,
but it doesn't change what I think about Ange. It doesn't change what I think about Ange. I don't want him in the club. I couldn't give two flying cats whether he was in the club or not, to be honest. But credit where credit's due. It was a Alex Ferguson-esque. It was an Alex Ferguson-esque masterclass in that second half, and whatever he done, it worked. Or whatever he even said, it worked.
Yeah.
And like I've always said to you, Jack, I'm as real as anybody, right? I will praise the guy when he deserves being praised, and I will slaughter him when I think he needs to be slaughtered.
And hard to slaughter him though after the last two results. So maybe he.
Well, it's hard to know. It's hard. Do you know what? It's hard to slaughter him after that second half performance against Villa. There's nothing I can say, right, that will make me think that Ange didn't do some dark arts or whatever you want to call it, right? In that second half, it was amazing. But at the end of the day, that's only one game. Can he prove to do it game in, game out?
Do you think though, like the way that he did it in that second half, where Aston Villa, right, they're sitting back, every man behind the ball, he's playing good football, and he just turned up the intensity even more in that second half, and Spurs were just able to run rings around Aston Villa. It actually looked like maybe just two heavyweights kind of battling it out in the first half, but then one player or one team was just in far better shape than the other, and also knew that they were just going to continue at that same intensity, if not even more. And I think we just overwhelmed Aston Villa in the second.
No, I don't.
That's two times now, Ryan. Also, listen to this. That's two times Aston Villa have conceded 4 goals to us in the second half.
Yeah, but do you know what? I do not agree with you that it was a good first half. It wasn't. It was. I will keep repeating this. It was piss poor. That first half was piss poor. We were getting run ragged.
Really?
In that first half, in my opinion, we were getting run ragged in that first half, right? But that second half, I can't. I'll keep saying this until the cats come home, right? And that's by the way, the two of them are coming home Friday, so I'll keep saying this until at least Friday. So, right, that second half was a genius. It was just absolute genius.
Who played well for you? Pop Matasar had an incredible game, didn't he?
Everyone in that second half had a brilliant game. I can't slaughter anyone in that second half. No one can turn around and say that Ange doesn't deserve credit. Even the Ange haters can't turn around and tell me, right, that second half was anything but a stroke of genius.
What did you make of his substitution of Sonny? That was pretty ballsy.
It was ballsy, but it was a stroke of genius.
Yeah. And then Richarlison came on to have the assist, but then got injured. What do you make of Solanke, man? Are you convinced by him? Not convinced by him? He got a brace, works his tail off for the team.
Look, right, Jack, the problem is Solanke isn't a good player. All he does is presses. But, like I keep saying, until the cats come home, right? That I can't slaughter anyone in that second half.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, Lucky.
It really was a really good second half, Rhino. But I think in general, I would just say Spurs played very professionally in both games. And against Man City, I think we were the better team in the first half. I thought we really overwhelmed them. Then in the second half, we kind of had to hang on. Kind of looked like almost like we were watching Antonio Conte or Jose Mourinho again in that second half because we weren't doing very much attacking. We were doing a lot more defending. And then in the Aston Villa game, I thought it was just really cagey. Two really good teams trying to figure each other out, trying to work each other out. And then Spurs were just able to completely overwhelm Aston Villa in the second half and just blew them away there. And for the most part, I'd say it's very, very professional, convincing wins from us. Because I wouldn't even say, Rhino, that we played as well as I think we can, in both games. I think we just were able to pretty much just stay really solid defensively and then eventually, find our moments to create chances and score goals and hold on. We've also only as well, right? In those two games, we only conceded 2 goals.
Look, and I agree with you with something there, Jack, right? Because you know me, right? I don't always agree with everything you say, and that's fair enough, right? But what I will agree with you is throughout the whole 90 minutes of that Man City game, we played good football, right? It was to a standard that got us the win. Fair enough, right? But like I said, it's the Man City B team. But the second, like I'll keep saying, the second half of that Villa game, I can't criticize anyone.
I'm glad, man. I'm glad that you're convinced by that second half. Final question for you, Rhino. Who's the hardest working Spurs player you've ever seen? Who's the guy that covered the hard yards? The guy that just, you would never usually fault him for a lack of effort.
Do you know what? He ain't actually a player. It's going to be a manager.
A manager, okay.
Poch.
Okay.
And the reason why is because the only reason why it'd be Poch is because he kept that team on a straight and narrow path. Okay, he didn't get us over the line, but that wasn't his fault. Personally, this is just my personal opinion. Poch, I think, is the best manager we've had since the title-winning team. He had the best He had the best players since that title-winning team, and unfortunately, at the time he came in, he didn't have the experience to get the players over the line. Now, if he had taken a bigger job before us, I would have thought. I can personally say he probably would have got us over the line.
Yeah, he kept the team very motivated.
Personally.
Yeah. Well, Rhino, appreciate you coming on. Thanks for waiting patiently, sir. Good to see you.
Can I
Hopefully you have a
say
wonderful
something
birthday on
else, though?
Monday.
Can I just say something though, just before I do go?
Yeah.
If Spurs fuck up Sunday, right? I'm having a shit birthday.
Oh, they got to win, man. They got to win this Sunday.
They've got to, because if they don't, they have fucked me up and I'm having a shit birthday. Let's put it like that. Because I don't want to see us lose. I don't think we'll lose. Do you know what? I honestly think we could win that game against Ipswich 5-0. Personally.
We should. In reality, we should. It's at home, right before international break. Opportunity to make your birthday. They should be winning a 5-0 Rhino. Appreciate
And
you, man.
Galatasaray, quickly, I'm going to say we're going to lose 2-1.
To Galatasaray?
Yeah.
I don't think that's actually that far off of prediction for maybe what other people might be expecting tomorrow. We're going in with a very weakened lineup, so it's going to be a tough game. But hopefully I get to see you with us for the match day festivities tomorrow, Ryan, and hopefully
Well,
you have a
depending
wonderful
on what
birthday
time I
next
get
Monday,
up,
sir.
because it actually depends what time I get up, man, because I've been up since 6:30 this morning, taking my other cat down to have her womb taken out today. So I've been up since 6:30, running around trying to get her sorted. So I'm knackered. So whether you'll see me tomorrow or not is a whole different situation.
No problem, Ryan. Get some rest, sir, and I'll see you next time. Have a great birthday, man. Bye.
I will do, mate.
Come on, you Spurs. Big up to Ryan, everybody. Show that guy some love, please. Also waiting very patiently to come on. And another guy who's just joined us towards the end here, but we slotted him in because he is a regular and he's someone that we always like to listen to. Michael from Poland is up next, and then we have Paul very last to be our closer. Let's see what Michael has to say. How you doing, Mike?
Yeah, we good.
Sounds like you're a little tired. Instead?
Yeah, just a bit tired. Had a lot of things on my mind recently, including, by the way, my cat got sick. It's a really funny story.
Humans are sick, cats are getting sick, everyone's getting sick.
I mean, funny story. Not necessarily funny for him, but the context was quite funny because he started sneezing a lot, right? And me and my girlfriend were like, what the hell is going on? Like, why is he sneezing so much, right? So we took him to the doctor, and it was like, I don't know, like 9 p.m. or something like that, right? So it was like an emergency thing, like an emergency vet, just getting animals in, right? And there were people with like some serious issues with animals, something bit the dog and the dog was like struggling, or another dog had problems breathing. And here I am with my sneezing cat, right? And I walk into the office and the vet looks at me. She's like, what's the issue? And we are like, he's sneezing a lot and doesn't eat, right? Turns out he actually had high temperature and his throat is sore and he has to take antibiotics.
Wow.
Cat antibiotics. So I didn't even know that such.
He had a real virus. Yeah, he had a real flu.
Literally, he has a flu, basically, like a cat flu.
Cat flu. There you go. That doesn't sound good. Well, hopefully speedy recovery for him. Michael, brilliant Spursy week last week. Crystal Palace lost, Man City knocked out, Aston Villa defeated. Feels like the most Spursy week imaginable.
I always repeat this to my friends who ask me how it is to support Tottenham. I always say that it's whenever you want to back this club and whenever you think this club does something, it will kick you in the nuts.
Yeah.
And whenever you are down there after getting kicked in the nuts, it suddenly just picks you up and gives you something crazy, right? And it's literally, it's partially why I started supporting this club. And I know it sounds a bit like masochistic, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of what I like, not to like that extent. I would like us to not lose to Crystal Palace a lot, right? But if losing to Crystal Palace means in turn we win against City in Carabao and Aston Villa in the league, I'm perfectly fine. We lose to Crystal Palace in that context.
I do know what you mean. I know what you mean. Well, on to the Man City performance. What'd you make of that one? I mean, some of us were kind of just expecting us to beat Man City because it's Man City, but I thought it was a pretty professional display from us. I thought we were much better than them in the first half. kind of then hung on to the game, if you remember that, right? Where it was a game where it looked like Antonio Conte, Jose Mourinho, holding on to the game in a very funny way.
I'm here. I just have to open the door. Sorry.
No, all good, all good.
I'm back. Yeah, I agree. And actually, I think I will be in a bit of a different boat compared to many people. I actually think this City squad that got fielded on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever day it was, I actually think it was stronger than people make it out to be.
I agree.
Because in my opinion, the whole back four that they fielded, back five including goalkeeper, was the back five that they usually would play in the league, maybe with an exception of Gvardiol. But still, like, Nathan Ake is no slouch, right? It's not like they fielded a 17-year-old. Yeah. They still had Gundogan, they still had Phil Foden, they still had Sabinho. I know they had two kids in the midfield, and that Nunes guy is like a new addition, right? That they are trying to get into the team. But I still think it was quite a strong team. Not the strongest, of course. I'm not saying they had their first team out there. And I know that Pep didn't sub in Haaland when they were chasing the game, but I was really proud of that performance, and I'm really happy that we actually managed to beat them, because it's a Spurs fan in me that says that I would be more confident of us beating the first team rather than the team consisting of kids. I think we are the type of team to lose to like under 21s. If they fielded like a full under 21 team, I would be absolutely shitting bricks. So
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, I am of the opinion that it's really, really important that we got over that hurdle. I think for one, the team won't care that it wasn't the first team of City. I think they will take pride and some like positives out of beating City. And I also think that it's really important that we basically eliminated one of the favorites in an early round, right? And the way I look at it is, yes, maybe Pep didn't care that much, right? But if by hook or crook we met them in a semi-final or a final, then they wouldn't play a second team. Then I think they would take it seriously, because maybe Pep doesn't prioritize the Carabao Cup, but he definitely won't turn away from winning another trophy, right? Why would he?
And he's won this one multiple times before.
Yeah, he did, right? So I personally think it's really, really good that they are knocked out, and I think it opens up a chance for us to win that title. Because I think if we were to meet them in a final, then I probably would say that we are most likely going to lose, considering how great City is in those domestic competitions. But now we have United in a quarterfinal, which I personally think, even though they have Amorim, we are capable of beating them, especially at our home soil. And then we will see what happens in the semi and hopefully a final, right? But I was really happy that we won that game.
And then, did you have confidence going into that Aston Villa game that we were going to get a result, or were you really nervous about the Aston Villa game?
I have to say that before the game, I had not necessarily like a full-fledged, like 100% confidence, but I felt good about the game.
Felt confident, no?
Yeah, I felt quite confident, because even though because there were two different narratives. One, like many people were saying that Villa doesn't do well on the road this season, but actually, when you look at it, this was their first loss away from home. The thing with them was that they were having good results, but the performances weren't the best. So when I looked at it, and when I looked at how we play, which is we are absolutely like super dangerous at home, and we aren't doing well away from home. So when I looked at that, it kind of screamed to me like a game that we are going to win. But I have to say, I didn't expect it to turn out the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that there was like a certain point in the second half after we scored the first goal where I was like, they are starting to do their old tricks, which is like shithousing, pretending to be injured. Like the game turned really ugly at a certain point, like around like minute 50 to 60. And
Yeah.
at that point, I messaged my brother and said, listen, I have a bad feeling we are going to lose this 2-1. Right? I just had this feeling in me again, the Spurs fans in me, I won't like keep him down, right? He always has to remind me of all those times we bottled a game where we actually kind of did well. And thankfully, the team proved me wrong. I was really surprised with the way it turned out. I didn't expect us to beat them 4-1. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and how are you feeling then at halftime? Like Ryan felt like it was a really poor performance in the first half. I just thought it was kind of two really good teams, kind of neutralizing each other. They had that really difficult low block, blocking up the midfield with
Mhm.
mostly midfielders. They didn't even have a single winger on the pitch. They just put four midfielders to block it up in like a 4-4-2 type of style. And I just think Spurs weren't really, playing as well as they could have, but were just as a team would find it difficult to break that down, and they just needed to work it out. And then in the second half, just blew that Aston Villa team out of the water, really. And once we got the equalizer, you kind of knew that we were going to go on and win it. That's how it felt to me. Was I wasn't even panicking that much at halftime. It was disappointing to have conceded that goal, but for the most part, Michael, it felt like the game was in the balance in the first half. But if Spurs played any better in the second, that we were going to go on and win it.
Yeah, so when I watched the game, I in the first half had the feeling that Aston Villa were set up really well to nullify what we wanted to do, and it was the best evidence of that was the fact that if my mind serves me correctly, we didn't have a shot on goal in that first half, even though we had like a couple ones that just went over the bar or were close to being a shot on goal, but still they kind of nullified us well. As you said, they really packed up that midfield. They were just playing with Ollie Watkins up top, trying to distribute the balls onto the running midfielders, and they were getting a bit of joy out of that, especially like the one chance where it was Ollie Watkins himself in the penalty box where he put the shot wide. But yeah, I felt like they are in a bit of control, but it wasn't like a total control. Like, sometimes teams just meet and one team is clearly like in complete control of the game, and you look at your own team and you're like, I don't find a way that we break the opposition down. Kind of like I felt against Arsenal at certain moments during this season. But this time, I had a feeling we are going to score quite quickly from the beginning of the second half, which we did. And you said that you were quite confident we are going to win after the equalizer. I wasn't necessarily that sure, but when we scored the second goal, I knew that we are going to win, because I've noticed a pattern where we are really good at putting like immediate pressure on an opposition, and we are good in those like 10 to 15 minute spells where we really like turn it up a notch. And we had the evidence of this again, where we scored the second goal. The third goal, but the second goal in that period. When Solanke
we score them in batches, as I think people have said.
Exactly, right. So as soon as we scored the second, I was like, yeah, we are winning this, and probably not only 2-1 but 3-1 or something, right? And I honestly, like 3-1 it was, and then Maddison with an absolute beauty
just makes it even
holy
better.
shit, mate! Like I haven't seen many goals scored from the free kicks. So yeah, I was really vexed when it happened. I was absolutely like astonished when he put that one in, and it was a beautiful shot. Just yeah. And overall, if I can summarize the performance, I am really happy that we won against Villa. We basically mostly because they are our direct rivals for the Champions League spot. That's one thing, but also I think that week, even though like the City had a bit of a weekend side, I still think this past week proves a bit that maybe we aren't as shit as we think we are in terms of facing top 10 opposition, right?
Yeah.
Because we have this. I think we still have this hoodoo over our back. It's still not enough to convince me that we improved massively compared to the previous season. Because still we lost to Newcastle, we lost to Brighton, we lost to Arsenal, right? So our record against top 10 opposition still isn't the best, but it's a good step. I think it's a really good step. And we have soon we have some fixtures that can prove it even further, right? And listen, I think like the game against City at the Etihad, that's coming soon, right? I think we play Ipswich at home and then it's City away. If we lose that City away game, I'm not going to be mad. I always like when we start the season, I always look at the fixtures, and I think we are one of the few teams that doesn't play 38 games during the season. I think we play 35. And the reason is I think we always lose at Anfield, we always lose at Stamford Bridge, and we always lose at the Emirates, right? That's the way I see it. We'll always lose, like, most
Those
often
will always
than
be
not, we
drop
lose,
points.
right?
Yeah.
And Etihad, even though we are kind of like City's bogey team, I wouldn't be surprised if we lost, and I wouldn't be mad if we lost. But if we go out there and get anything from that game, I'm going to be super ecstatic about it. I'm going to be absolutely on the moon, because then it further proves that maybe we aren't as bad as even I thought. At a certain point this season, I thought that we are, like, I had my doubts, I had my issues with the tactics, I had my issues with the approach. And I'm not saying everything is fixed, but I see some positives to look at,
No,
right?
Completely agree, Michael, actually. And after the City away game, it's not really like the schedule actually is too tough for Spurs. We'll have a few tough games every now and again, but it starts to kind of open up for us to go on some runs. So hopefully that we do that. Any quick thoughts, before I have to move on to Paul finally, about tomorrow's game? Are you okay with going with a weakened lineup basically for tomorrow? And basically, which one would you prefer, Ange, to prioritize, this game tomorrow or the Ipswich Town game on Sunday?
So I'm going to say it in like the most respectful way towards Ipswich, but I've been watching them, and especially away from home, they haven't been playing well. Let's put it lightly, right? So I personally,
You think we can roll over them? Yeah.
Not necessarily. I'm not saying the game is going to be easy. I don't think any game in Premier League or hardly any game in Premier League is easy, right? But I think we have enough in our tank to beat them, even if we aren't like fully rested, if you know what I mean, right? I think we have enough, like with Sonny 50 minutes on the pitch, Solanke 60 minutes on the pitch, something like that. And I think we'll have enough to put a sizable lead on them where we will find it like peaceful to win this game. And I and maybe that's not a common opinion, I would actually put more like focus on that Galatasaray game, because when you look at it, if you win 4 games in the league phase of a European competition, I think it like pretty much the probability is that pretty much you are guaranteed to be in the top 24. I've seen like someone doing maths, and if you win 4, it's really, really hard to drop out of the top 24. So for me, if we won this game, then I think we put ourselves in a hugely comfortable position in that league phase, where if we then go on and grab 1 or 2 more wins, then we are pretty much safe to be like in the top half of the table or close to top 8. I would love us to be top 8, right? And I think that's why I would put more priority on that Galatasaray game. It would be a different thing if you played like Newcastle at home after that, right? Then I would put more like focus on the Newcastle game. But because it's Ipswich, I think we can manage to play some of the first team in that Galatasaray game. So, and by the way, Maddison, he played like 20 minutes, and Son played like 50 minutes, right? So those 2 guys are rested. Those 2 guys can play tomorrow, start tomorrow, right? I think backline, we know what it will look like. I think it will be like Gray, Dragosin, Davies, or it has to be Dragosin and Davies, right? And I think Udogie, unfortunately, will play, or maybe Poro plays and Gray plays on the left. Midfield will be like Maddison, Bissouma or Bentancur, and Bergwall. That's how I look at it. And front will be Solanke, Son, and I think Mikey Moore will get a nod.
Mikey Moore, sadly, is not available. He had a virus, so he couldn't travel.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. So I didn't know about that. So maybe if Odobert is available, then maybe he will play, and if he is not available, then it will be Johnson. And I think that's a strong enough team to put a good performance against Galatasaray. Whether we win or not, that will be a different thing. But I think that's a team that can resist that atmosphere, that team. And if we win, then it's fucking brilliant, right? We are 4 out of 4 if we win, and I think this Europa League, as you know, I put huge hopes in that Europa League, so I want us to treat this competition seriously.
No, we don't need to necessarily win this game, but it would feel really good if we did and got over the line somehow. It doesn't even need to be a brilliant performance. Very last question before I let you go, Michael. The hardest working Spurs player you've ever seen at the club? That was one of the questions I had, because everybody has shown so much praise for Solanke's work rate, but who's the person that you would think of as the best ever work rate, the hardest working player you've ever seen at the club?
Oh, bloody hell.
Who's like that guy, covers the most ground, or just when you think of hard work, you think of this Spurs player?
So, as you know, I'm not a fan for a long time, so I
people have given Kyle Walker, Harry Kane, someone just gave Pochettino, which I thought was interesting. Had the likes of
I will go maybe with a bit of a different answer. I will say Højbjerg. Because I've been a fan for like 5 or 6 years, so I didn't really see like Dembele, Wanyama like live every single week, so I cannot really like tell you how much they worked, right? But with Højbjerg, I think in like 95% of the games I've seen him play, he was like running his absolute socks off. And I know the performances haven't been the best, but I think his will to perform for the team was there. And I think he was that midfield general that sometimes we laugh at that like statement, but I think he was that midfield general. He was that leader on the pitch, and I really liked his performances. And I think the second one, if I could say, was Kane. I think Kane, when he wanted to play, which is not under Nuno, but when he wanted to play, I think he was also like really involved in the team. He was doing a lot of defensive work, while still being one of the best strikers the world has seen in recent years. So I really appreciate everything he done for us. So yeah, that I think Højbjerg is my answer, but honorable mention to Kane.
Love that. Great answers, Michael. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time, and hopefully get you on a pre-match build-up sometime soon if you're ever available. But appreciate you taking the time this evening, sir. Thanks for keeping me company.
Always a pleasure speaking with you. And Dave is sick or something, right? So Dave, all health to you. Like, thanks, I hope you get well soon, brother. And I hope we have a chance to talk as soon as possible. So yeah, see you.
Appreciate you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Michael. See you next time, sir. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Big up to Michael, everybody. Show that guy some love. Always really good to speak to. And we're going to end things off with our closer, Paul Connor. It's been a while since I spoke to Paul, so I'm looking forward to this one. Bring in Paul right now. Howdy, Paul. I think you're on mute there, by the way, before you say anything.
Got better. Here we go.
It's not been
good
so
to be back,
long,
mate. How are you?
It's not been so long since I've spoken to you, but I feel like it's been a couple of weeks, so good to see you back.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Moving house does that to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back at work, so I'm getting a rest from doing overworking at the house.
You got to work somewhere. You got to overwork yourself someplace. But Paul, I've started most people off by just saying, how great last week was, right? From doom and gloom against Palace to making up for it against City and Aston Villa. Just a really good week for Ange Postecoglou and us Spurs fans.
Yeah, great week for a change. Smiles all round, apart from, a bit of a downer with the Palace game. But being a Spurs fan for as long as I have, I've seen it so many times where we play really well against the top teams and then we just don't turn up against teams we really should be beating and we don't beat them. So it's kind of frustrating. The Palace one was frustrating more than anything for me, because we were playing so well beforehand and then we played so well afterwards. It's like, what went wrong? Where were the players? It's like they were on holiday that particular game. So, hopefully it's just a blip, but it's one of them for me. Great week though, all round. Very happy with the performances. certain players played really well, and they're starting to play consistently now. You're not getting where they're having one good game. Like, I've been critical of Johnson, and recently, he's what? I think he's 8 in 11, something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I want our wingers to do. That's what I want to see. I want to see it consistently. So yeah, Johnson, starting to come up in my estimations. Solanke, when we signed him, I was very much like, is this going to be another Richie? We've just gone out and bought somebody, from a lower half of the division.
Right.
Comes in, impressed so far, working his way forward. But again, he's only been here a couple of months, 2-3 months. I want to see him do it week in, week out, and keep this level of performance up. Before I start saying, "Oh, he's amazing."
Just quickly on Solanke, what is it for you about, maybe the goal scoring? Because everyone's praising the work rate, the hold-up play, but he hasn't been able to score goals on as much of a regular basis as maybe he would like, if you're going to be a bit harsh. So what is it about maybe him not scoring as many goals? Is that down to the players around him not creating chances? Is that kind of down to him? Bit of both? What do you put that down to?
Bit of both, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think when he first signed, we obviously in the Arsenal game he missed a couple of big chances. There's been quite a few times, whether that's because it's a new club settling down, write that off. But what I saw of him against Villa in the second half, especially, he played as what we need him to play. He played as a true number 9. And if you look at the amount of times when that ball come across the box, he was on the 6-yard box where he should be. He shouldn't be on the 18-yard box waiting for it to be cut back. He was running and anticipating that ball. So it was good to see an improvement in his game in that sense, that thing, and he's rewarded with 2 goals, from that. And he could have, if Johnson had missed that one that come in, he was right behind it to tap it in anyway. But that's what we need. So we need that sort of striker, with the way we play, with the balls coming across that 6-yard box, we must put them across there 8, 9, 10 times a game. So he's starting to get used to those balls are going to come across, so it's getting straight down.
No, completely agree, man. And I think Solanke, if he just gets more opportunities like he did recently, then I think we'll start to see the more complete striker, the guy that works hard, holds up play, but also can put away the chances. But I agree with you that maybe a lot of the chances that he has missed came in the beginning of the season, and he could have helped himself out maybe a bit more by putting away 1 or 2 of those. But now he's starting to put together the goals with also the hard work, which is good to see.
Yeah.
It's
good to see his consistency start to improve as well. So, I don't want to see him now go 6 games without a goal. I want to see it. Maybe not one next time, but, certainly against Ipswich, you'd expect him to score. With the amount of crosses that are going to go in, the amount of pressure we're going to have, you'd expect him to score. So, we've had a lot of players that can turn up in big games. But again, it was like the Crystal Palace game. Where were they then? Knocking these goals in. It just frustrates me when we play lower league teams and we just can't seem to score. We had the same problem last season. Luton was a prime example.
True. Even Burnley,
when
we struggled 1-0. I remember.
Yeah. So when we seem to play these teams, it's like we underestimate them or don't give them enough respect. Whereas I've always said if we were playing Man City every week, we'd probably win the league because we'd turn up every game.
Probably right. If only we could play them every week. And then maybe just, we could talk about the Aston Villa performance as well. But since you did mention maybe teams that we kind of underestimate, with Ipswich Town, really important that Spurs, break that little hoodoo of always before going into international break, we seem to lose games. So really important that they win that game against Ipswich Town, right? And would you then think Ange is going to prioritize that game over this Galatasaray game tomorrow?
To be honest, I think he should prioritise both because they're both just as important as each other. Because the Galatasaray game is our first big away game in the Europa League.
True.
This to me, we need to go out there and we need to make a statement. We're here to win it. We're not here just to try and get into the top 8 or whatever. No, we want to finish top. I want to see us finish top of that league. Going in strong favourites. We missed the playoffs. So that's 2 games out of our calendar, which is what we could do with, to be honest. I don't want to be finishing between 8th or onto the last game, waiting on this result to see if we're going to go into the top 8 or out of it. I can't see us being below in the 24, but I do want to see him go out and make a statement away win, especially at a team like Galatasaray, because then that will help us, I think, in the Premier League, because then it will give us the confidence that we can go away and we can win. So to me, I think they're both vitally important for different reasons.
And then Ange Postecoglou, though, has brought some younger players with him on this flight to Istanbul. Do you think he'll lean on any of them, or do you think he will pretty much just still go with the strongest possible lineup, or do you expect him to filter in some of these younger guys into this Galatasaray game?
I think he'll filter them in depending on how the game's going. So
he won't
if
start with them. Yeah.
No, I can't see him starting with them, to be honest, because I think he'll want to go there and he'll want, as he said, he wants to win every game, and I even said this at the start of the season. What I wanted to see Ange do last season was, when we do get clubs like Ipswich, these are we're all ranting and raving about Moore, Bergvall, Gray, and all these. That's the sort of game where they need to be playing to get Premier League experience. It's not just about them getting European experience. They need those Premier League games as well. So why can't we trust them to play against Ipswich if we're all raving them, they're that good?
Yeah.
Whereas Ipswich aren't exactly playing well, and you can always have your big guns come on if they're not performing.
Yeah. For me as well, the European game should be very physical, tough atmosphere. You would think that that's the game where, even if you want to give some of the younger players those minutes, it just thinks maybe experience is the better route, for a game like that. Guys who have been in situations like that before, instead of some of the younger players, and then see if you can trust the younger players, like you say, at a home atmosphere in front of the Tottenham Hotspur crowd before the international break. Maybe they could surprise us, with a good performance.
That's how I would see it.
Okay.
Not saying but I don't think he'll go completely strong in either one. I think he'll put 5 or 6 out of the first team against Galatasaray, and I think he'll do the same against Ipswich. And he'll start managing these minutes for these players while he's got the opportunity, because, as he said, these players aren't getting a rest. Like Solanke, Udogie, Porro, they're just being played and played and played and played. Even in the midfield, like Basuma, Bentancur, Maddison, Kulu, they're just getting played. So the likes of Bergvall, Moore, and stuff, they could start against Ipswich. Why couldn't they? They've played in the Championship. Bergvall's already proven he can play. And then you've got the likes of Madders and Kulu that can come on in the Ipswich game if it's all going wrong.
Totally.
But I can't see him totally capitulating and losing.
Yeah. And also, though, with the kind of the 2 games, and in the last week, what do you make of Ange Postecoglou right now? The fact that he has technically beaten the 2 masterminds of tactics, the Pep Guardiola, Unai Emery. Has Ange's stock kind of risen? Has he silenced some of the doubters? What do you think Ange Postecoglou, his status is right now after beating those 2 managers? Feels like that's a really good week for him. Very important week.
Very important week, but we all knew before he came what he can do. And I know everybody says that, it's only been this league and this league and that league, but he has beaten the best in every league he's been in.
Sure. And he's been the best.
So he's been the best in every league he's been in. So to me, yes, he's doing exactly what he said he would do. The first season was all about getting the system ingrained. The second season, he's now starting to tweak for individual games. And I think that substitution with Son was planned. He said it was planned. He was never ever going to play any more than 60 minutes, regardless of what the scoreline was at the time or how well he was performing, because he didn't want to risk him for, the long term sort of thing, because he knows we've got a very, very busy December coming up after the international break. So he'll want him around for that. So, yeah, and I think that was a good idea to manage his minutes. But obviously it works as a masterclass. And I think from what I looked, I think they started playing a little bit wider in the second half than they did in the first half against Villa. I think they stretched that defence a little bit more out, and I think that's where the spaces opened up, which is where we get the balls across the box, which obviously resulted in goals.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think it's the same system, but he's tweaking it for when we play individual teams. Like when we played City, he played 2 defensive and 1 attacking midfielder, whereas in other games he's played 2 attacking midfielders, one defensive-minded one. So it's kind of, he is starting to tweak it, and he's starting to use his squad, which is good to see.
No, he is. And he seems to also start to find some preferences. Like he seems to now be preferring Bentancur a little bit over Basuma. Seems to like Kulusevski a bit more than Madison. He's starting to find his regulars, his guys that he maybe prefers over others, but is still getting good performances pretty much out of everyone right now, which is a good sign. Any kind of final words, Paul? And then also that question that I had for everybody, which was hardest working Spurs player you've ever seen. But did you have any other things that you wanted to chat about?
Yeah, I just want to see us get more consistent, if I'm honest. I just want to see consistency. I don't want to see those games like with Palace. I haven't even gone into detail in it because I thought we didn't play well. We didn't do anything well. It was just, horrible. I just don't want to see those sort of performances.
Yeah.
I'd rather go out and play, and if we lose 4-2 or 3-2 or whichever it is, but we've put a really good showing up and we're unlucky to lose it, that's when I'm happy. Not when we lose 1-0 and don't turn up.
You want to feel like you still played well in periods. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see consistency within the team.
Totally.
And for my hardest working Spurs players, I would have to go with Ledley King and Gary Mabbott.
Oh, Gary Mabbott. Great answer.
I can't choose between the two because they both were Spurs captains. Spurs have always played open, with various managers, and they used to put their bodies on the line. Everyone says Romero is rough. They haven't met Gary Mabbott. He used to plow through players. If he was playing today, he'd be sent off every week. But it's I've never seen 2 defenders work as hard as they can for that team to try. Their bodies were on the line all the time.
Great examples.
So
great answers there, Paul. Well, it's nice to catch up with you. I'm sorry that Dave couldn't be here as well to have a little catch up with you, but maybe we will sometime soon, and hopefully the transition back to work is going okay, and you can leave some of the house duties to another time when you can catch up on that. So best of luck to you, Paul.
Yeah, moving at the end of the month, so it's kind of everything's all in boxes now. So
I hate moving, man. I hate it so much. I hope one day maybe I can go more than a couple of years without having to do it again. It's just so frustrating, and it's just one of those things. Even though I've done it so many times, I really dislike it. Despite how much I've been having to do it. But best of luck to you, man, and hopefully you have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you maybe for the next fan show.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. If work plays nice.
Come
on, you Spurs.
Appreciate you, Paul. Thank you, sir. Have
see
a
you
good one.
Bye.
Come on, you Spurs. Big up to Paul, everybody. Good guy. And hopefully we have him with us for the next fan show, because I miss having chats with him, because he just, you can just let Paul go. He can take over. He has really good things to say, and he's a really easy guy to work with on these fan shows. But big up to him. And that's your fan show, everybody. Tomorrow, look out for the predicted lineup. I should have that out for you guys. I'm going to have to make some adjustments and have to go back and re-record some periods of that, because I thought Mikey Moore was going to start. Thought as well that I think someone else I put in the lineup that Timo Werner, so I'm going to have to make some changes to that. And then also as well, look out for the pre-match build-up. Hopefully Dave can join me tomorrow for that one, and as well as the watch-along. Really appreciate all the support you guys showed us today. Thank you to Sergeant Stressful. Thank you to Artist T as well for grabbing a membership, as well as sending in a super chat. Very appreciative. Hopefully can do some clubs, Sam, but unfortunately I am headed off to see a friend and his band play tonight. I'm going to see if I can meet up with him for a late coffee at some point, maybe this afternoon. But if that doesn't end up working out, then I might just be hanging out until I end up going over to his band's place to go see them play. But might be able to play tonight. Tomorrow could be better, and then Friday might be a really good night, Sam, for some clubs. Appreciate you guys, though. Come on, you Spurs. Big Ange we trust. See you all tomorrow for some match day festivities. Goodbye now.